version. It looks like we've got a few people joining. I'll just wait until we get everybody online. Ten minus one, so 9. Okay.
Just gonna grab a pen, sorry.
Okay. All right, good evening, everybody. I would like to call the December 21st, 2022 Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 7 p.m. In attendance is myself, David Gerstenhaber, Chairman, Vice Chair Donna D, and Supervisors Don, Stefan, and Jim Johnson. In attendance, there are 9 members of the public. We also have Jeff Eastburn and Melissa Ortega, our Township Operation Manager and Financial Manager. And I would like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you. All right, now I'd like to open the meeting up to public comment. This public comment can include any comments related to the agenda items presented tonight. Commenters must state their name and whether or not they are a township resident or a taxpayer in the township. Do we have any public comment? Okay. Not hearing any public comment, we will move over to our next topic. Donna?
I thought it had Jeff on it, so maybe I'm wrong. So why the wrong one? So engineering and zoning in there?
I have a township, you need to have approval of minutes first before we.
So I don't think there were any minutes to approve.
No, that is, yeah, they're revised from their day from.
Yes. So
Do we not, we're not doing approval of minutes first? Okay, all right.
Fry, lower legal name. We're glad.
Oh, your mic needs to turn on.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Farley Fry with Hanover Engineering. We're pleased to be here. We appreciate the opportunity to present more information about Hanover Engineering to you. We have provided a detailed proposal to you, and tonight we're just going to try and hit the highlights for you and summarize some of what we think are the more important points. To my left is Jen Prunoski. She is our stormwater expert. And then further to our left is Travis Groff. He is a young engineer who joined our firm and we think has a bright future and will be serving as the assistant engineer. I should mention, years ago, I did a lot of stormwater work as well, but it's become so detailed and changing and evolving so much that one person really needs to focus on it. And it becomes a major topic on almost every project for municipalities. So that's why Jen is here and that's her area of expertise. You'll notice from my resume, I'm a water sewer guy and you may wonder why I'm here. Well, first let me say also, I have 2 children in college and 1 in high school, so I have no plans to retire anytime soon. So you don't need to worry about that for obvious reasons. But what I would like to point out, and West Grove is a good example, is what I'll say is progression of experience. I started out working on a sanitary sewer problem that they had in 1990 at the wastewater treatment plant. Got involved to help resolve those issues. And then over time, I started doing all of their water sewer work, and then eventually became the borough engineer and managed all kinds of projects for them. I've done that for other municipalities as well. So my area of expertise is water and sewer, but I've managed a wide variety of municipal projects, everything from street lighting projects to traffic lights, park projects. And of course, in all those other projects, I rely on experts like Jen to assist because they're not my area of expertise, but I can manage those projects and have done so. I would like to turn it over to Jen then to talk a little bit about stormwater and land development.
Hello. We have a stormwater and land development program that we, through our office, we do reviews for all types of plans, and it includes subdivision land development plans, stormwater plans. We review floodplain analysis studies. We can also perform them. We have some staff on hand that can do that are HEC-RAS capable, so that we've been doing a lot of floodplain studies recently. We also have the capability to, depending on our clients' needs, especially with our stormwater ordinances, we now have those exemptions and those simplified stormwater permits that are not large stormwater designs, but they're the smaller ones. We can review those if that's something you need assistance with, or if it's something that you review in-house, but then if there's a questionable design or something, you can, sometimes our clients just send us one or two saying, hey, we just need a little, another look at this. Can you please do that? We then, with those plans and stuff, we will, we attend any meetings that need, for those discussions. We do our plan reviews, and our plan reviews are broken down. I think there was a sample plan or letter. I think we sent some sample letters in our proposal of how we typically do our layouts, but we can change, we adjust those per what clients need and everything. Our other big program that we run is our MS4. With our MS4, we usually, most of our clients, we represent them for stormwater MS4. We do all the different aspects for them. So we run their annual reports. In our annual reports, we can do either assisting you, like if you guys want to, some clients like to do their annual reports themselves. But then they'll say, hey, can you just take a look at this before we submit it to make sure I didn't miss anything, or what should I write here because I just don't know, what I should put. So they'll send it, we'll do a markup of it and send it back to them so they submit it all on their own, and they just had us look at it. Other clients, they'll submit us their, their reports or different inspections that they've done throughout the year, but they'll send us that stuff throughout the year. We keep it in, tabulated in our files. And then when it comes time, we'll touch base with them, make sure there's nothing else we need to include, and we'll prepare the full entire annual report for them as well. And then we'll give it back to them for their final review before we submit it up to DEP on their behalf. So we can do a wide range of whatever services for the annual reports that work for our clients. With our MS4 program, we also offer staff training. So I've gone out to multiple municipalities and met with their road crews or their public works crews, and we've gone out in the field and we've had the inspection forms, and we've gone through in the field, so they're seeing what they're actually writing about, not just trying to look at pictures and making decisions that way. And we've gone through and they've learned that way how to fill out these forms. And then if they have questions, I've gotten a bunch of phone calls saying, is this how I'm supposed to do this? Well, this situation, what should I do here? And I tell them that, if things need to be tweaked on our maps and stuff, you let me know and we'll tweak them to adjust to what your guys are finding out in the fields, because we've created our MS4 maps based on, a bigger image, not being in the field, seeing what this culvert actually looks like every single time. So, those are always evolving, those maps, and, even the outfall inspections and stuff like that. We're working with the, our clients' staff out in the field as they're doing this stuff. We also provide mock inspections. Now that DEP is, with the pandemic slowing down and everyone going back, DEP is starting to come back out. They told us last year that they're going to start their inspections again. And they also told us the EPA is starting to look at coming out too. And the EPA inspection is the one that everyone's, you're fearful of because you don't know what it could result in. DEP is going to work with you to make sure you get things improved to the status of what you want for an EPA inspection, but we still like to get a clean DEP inspection. So we'll go out, and if you guys want a mock inspection, we'll go through your public works garage or parks, or, you know, even your office, like paperwork, make sure everything is in line with what we've seen for at inspection time, so that you're ready for an inspection. And basically, like the last one, or our last client did the inspection, and they said, we'll call you if we have any questions, but they came back with a clean inspection after we went through and did all the mock inspections and sat down with them. They did it on their own, and they came back and said DP was very happy with what they saw. So, you know, we were able to work with them, and they took it on, finished it off on their own, and it worked out right. It worked out really well. We also provide the permitting, like for if you need a renewal of your MS4 permit. I know you guys are working on finishing up your permit process right now for your TMDL plans. And so we can help with that. We also work on renewals. We just renewed a couple waiver for MS4 programs from some of our other clients. We got those through DEP. And we also are right now currently doing a lot of permitting for the actual projects that we propose as part of our TMDL and PRP projects. So we're doing the joint permit projects for our stream projects. And so we're capable of doing all those types of permit-based stuff that would follow through with the whole process of your TMDL plans and your MS4 PRPs. So, other than that, then I'll just toss the microphone back to Farley for the funding and procurement.
Funding and grant procurement was something you expressed interest in. Everybody's interested in grants. What I will say, and we've provided some information or proposal, it really has to be tailored for the municipality. So we've been very successful in helping Westboro Borough get a lot of grants, but they're very different than you. They have a lot of aged infrastructure and very different demographics. I will also say it can vary with time. So not only does it vary with municipality, and we're aware of that, but also it can vary with time. So Greg McCummings, the current borough manager, is able to write grants, and we support him. In the past, we did more work, but now we're pretty much providing exhibits, colorful graphics, and some suggestions on words that will have an emotional appeal to the grant agency, which is important. You got to realize who you're writing to, but also it depends on his availability. And I don't know if you've been watching the news, but they had some police issues. So we have completed the last 2 grant applications. We just submitted those yesterday on behalf of them. Greg helped, but we provided more information and more assistance just because of where he was at that point in time. So we work with the municipality, try to understand what you need and what grants are best for you and what you're more suitable at. We also want to point out we are a member of the American Grant Money Association, and we have a staff member who's very sharp by the name of Steph Fry, no relationship, who is working very hard to become certified in that program. Project management and construction observation. We've listed 6 or 7 bulleted items here. I want to point out a few. When people think of construction observation, the main thing that people think about are someone out there making sure that your project is being constructed properly, the quality is there. But I would argue and say that perhaps the second part is even more important, and that is our construction observation person, I'm pointing to Travis, at the end of each day should talk to the project manager if it's a bid project, or the project manager or project foreman for a contractor, and they need to settle up and agree on what the quantities are. How much pipe was installed, what stone work was done, all that type of thing. Because when it comes to processing payment applications for bid projects or escrow reductions for a development project, the first thing I'm going to do is hand it to Travis and say, are these numbers right? And the process goes so much more smoothly if that is done way up front, and it gets to be rocky if that isn't done afterwards, or it can get rocky. So that is one thing I wanted to point out. I wanted to address also proximity to client, which we labeled. We are an hour and 5 minutes away by MapQuest. And the thing I'd say that best explains or addresses that issue is our firm has worked for 20 years continuously for Westfield Borough, an hour away from our office. And I've personally worked for them for 32 years consecutively. So I think far more important than the distance is the quality of the work, the personal relationships, the skills of the engineers involved, and just doing work that is complementary to the township and working with the township. And we've successfully done that for a long time. I will say, since it's an hour here, we would just charge 1 hour for travel time, and if we get behind a buggy in the way, which happens, and it takes us longer, that would be on us, and that's our contribution to the teamwork. Another thing I wanted to point out, we have a unique billing structure. Travis is a young engineer. He's been assigned to Westco this summer. Good learning process for him, serving as a construction observer. He is billing his time as a construction observer because that's the work he's doing. He's not billing as an engineer. We should not be paying based on the person involved as much as what they're doing. That's our philosophy. Doesn't work out a lot. It's not involved a lot, but it does occur. And it's something important, and we think it's a way of treating you fairly. I would like to turn it over to Travis to talk a little bit about his West Grove experience this summer.
Thank you, Farley.
Yeah.
Oops. I just want to touch on two other topics with construction observation. The first being is we have the means and experience to handle multiple different construction jobs in multiple different areas of the county at one time. So that saves both time and money for you guys to not only have to pay just, you don't have to pay one person to drive around and watch your construction jobs instead of 3 people. So that's one benefit we provide for you guys. Another one is we also provide construction observation for plan reviews, not only just designs that we create. So the majority of our inspections, whether they be full-time or just spot inspections, are taking care of the construction jobs designed by outside agencies for private development. So we do handle that. I'd say it's probably over 50% is the plan reviews and not our designs. So we do a lot of construction observation for you guys just to make sure everything's built properly and we don't run into problems in the future with contractors or money issues or something like that. So I'll send it back to Farley.
So I'd like to reinforce, we had three construction projects going on at the same time this summer at West Grove, and he was managing all 3 jobs. It's a small town, traveling back and forth, making sure all contractors are sticking to what they're supposed to do. But the point is that doing 3 jobs at one time saved the borough money in terms of construction observation. So the most important spread or slide sheet we have is the last one called Why Hanover. There are several bulleted items. I'm just going to touch on a few of them. One, I think we have very good communication skills verbally and writing, and that is what separates engineers. Secondly, we are an employee-owned and operated company. There are other firms out there that are owned by investment firms from out of state, and we think our organizational structure, in my 40 years of experience, it just makes a difference if you're owned by an investment firm versus a firm that has some vested interest in it and is personally involved. I also would like to mention, you mentioned out of the box thinking. That was something that was mentioned. We are prepared to talk about that in the question session if you have, if you are interested. I can tell you some examples. And one, I've been involved in a proposed solar farm on a cemetery that a municipality ended up owning. Didn't go through because of a neighboring township, but they felt comfortable for us to be involved in something very unusual. And I testified at the zoning hearing board. The other thing I want to point out, we have 0 conflicts of interest. Many engineering firms have a blanket of 10, 12 offices covering the Mid-Atlantic area, and they're involved in lots of areas of engineering. So, for example, there are engineering firms that provide transportation services for developers, say Pulte Homes or Ryan or Toll Brothers in Montgomery County or Delaware County. And then over here, they may be reviewing plans from that same developer. We do not do any development. Hanover does not do any development work, private development work in the Philadelphia metropolitan area or Lancaster County for that matter, where we're based, where our office is based. So we don't have that conflict of interest. I think that's an important consideration. Finally, I'd like to mention some local knowledge. Having worked with West Grove for 30 plus years, you learn some things that are common to an area. So we have worked with the fire department from West Grove on a variety of issues. I know they serve most of the township, not all of it, but most of the township. We are aware that the two hospitals that closed at Jennersville and Brandywine had a big impact on EMS and the cost of EMS. We're fully aware of that. We have experience, as I mentioned, with the other groups that are mentioned here, Avondale School District, the charter school even. We have experience with PICO and Verizon. I know you're in a PICO service area, and there's just it's good to know the people that you're working with at utilities. Finally, I've known Ron Reagan since I'm going to say 1990. He serves as the London Grove engineer for many, many years. I knew him when he worked for Roy F. Weston Engineers before he went out on his own. So I know him and I've worked with him successfully. I'm not saying we know each other real well, but we've had a lot of interchange over the years. I've had experience with AECOM and their predecessors, which were URS, and prior to that, Tatman and Lee. So I've known Sandra Morgan and their experience on drip and spray irrigation and worked with them at other municipalities where we were the municipal engineer for the general work. So I have some experience with people you know and work with, and also Guy Donatelli. I've had some interaction with him, mostly with other people working at his firm. We are working with their firm and the solicitors at other municipalities. So that local knowledge is helpful and beneficial, I think. And one of the first things I have to do, or we have to do, is get to know you and what's important to you, how you function, how we interact. And that's local knowledge helps build it, even though we are a distance away. Working in the area and for many, many years helps. So we tried to keep our presentation short so that you could ask questions, and that's a difficult thing to do sometimes. I will say on the next sheet, we have provided the contact information of our team. There's one member who's not able to be here this evening. He's a manager office, but he's an engineer, and I did not mention, should have said that. But I've worked for a variety of firms over the years, and with 40 years experience, I can say we are a flat organization. So our manager is actively involved as a project manager and not really so much on the office management side. We have provided our cell phone number for every team member. Routinely do that for clients. I have gotten calls on January 1st. I have gotten calls tonight. Municipalities try not to do that. I understand that, and we prefer not to happen. But if the situation arises, and it tends to happen when you least expect it, we are available to serve you. So we have a slide presentation that Travis will start, which will have some things going on, which you can watch while if you have any questions. These are all images and exhibits and diagrams from West Grove Borough over the last 19 years, I guess. So I'm looking for questions. Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. So is this the team? Like I'm really into relationships. I'm into this idea that, you know, either you assign an engineer or we know we talk to you for one thing or someone, not Travis, for another thing like that. Is it that? Do you have that clarity?
Very good question. We are the team. One person is missing tonight, and I'm going to be your primary point of contact. And if you manage to stay with the client for 30 years, and I have several clients like that, 2 different borough managers at West Grove, 2 different superintendents, correct? Right now, they've split that job among several people. You got to be able to stay comfortable and make people feel comfortable under a variety of circumstances. And that's my job, is to get along and meet your needs. So that time span and those changes, I think, speak to that issue.
So you would be the point of contact and you would bring others in as, depending on what the issue is,
Correct.
right? But it's,
So
but
if I need
it's just
some-
you guys, but
That's
just,
correct. Stormwater, I'm gonna turn to Jen. I managed a traffic light project in West Grove. Bob was my right arm because I'm not a traffic light. Like I said, I'm a water sewer guy, but I managed the project and that was another grant project from the county.
we have several road projects and there's always something odd, whether something's not draining right or I don't know, so, right, Jeff, there's always something that we bring an engineer in and say, okay, how do we solve this? And so we need a problem solver and someone who can, like you said, get to know us and then we can feel good about working with. But or someone's looking for solutions, not like, oh, well, you need to do this and you need to do that. You need to.
We have several people that can help you with road projects and drainage issues. And we did review your minutes for the past year. And I can say I saw you have some road erosion problems occasionally. And everybody does, but we have someone available who can help you on that.
So that's another person?
Bob Lynn was not able to be here. And I'll tell you, talk about unique problem solving. One of our clients had an intersection that was on a severe skew. It was straightened out about 20 years ago, so it's perpendicular, which improved traffic flow and traffic incidents. But they were still having problems. And they were prepared to engage us to do survey work, study the intersection, see what's going. But before that happened, Bob went out and looked at it and he said, you know, you don't have any traffic bars on the side road here. Putting a traffic bar, those white, wide painted lines or thermoplastic lines in the road in a very simple short site visit was able to really solve the problem without having to get into a detailed problem. So that's a way of illustrating that we can look a little outside the box and rather than just let's survey it, get a plan, see what we got, let's see what we need to change. Just experience plays a factor there.
What would you do to help us with zoning and coding since you do not provide that? Would you,
We do provide zoning. We don't typically do it. Most engineering firms struggle a little to be cost effective on zoning and building. We have done that in cases where a municipality, when they're in transition or something like that, but generally we are not doing that full time. But we have the expertise and we have people who can do the work.
Jamie, your question.
Should I be turning this off?
You can leave it on.
You can leave it. So when we were talking about West Grove, you mentioned that we are very different. Do you see similarities with our township as well?
You are, because you're in southern Chester County. I've known that and I've worked in Chester County for a long time. So yes, I say different because they're built out, they're constrained in growth. They have aged infrastructure. The one grant we submitted yesterday was to replace 100-year-old pipes. We think they're 100 years old. We don't know exactly. They're lead joint pipes. They're 4-inch. They have one fire hydrant to serve 1,300 feet of pipe, and it's on a 4-inch pipe. That's not a good thing. And there's a commercial area in the neighboring township. So now the township supported it. So there are differences, but yeah, there's similarities. Southern Chester County, I mentioned the school district, the library, you have a lot in common. You're doing things together, so to speak, even to the point of Avondale State Police cover the same area, so there are a lot of commonalities, but I'd say in terms of average income, and they have a lot of mushroom workers who live in the borough. So it's a little different, but our job is to learn to get to know you and to use that knowledge to serve you well and with your differences and your commonalities.
Yeah, we may be the proud owners of a wastewater treatment plant soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I saw that on your West Grove bullet. So
We're currently doing UV disinfection project there. Actually, we're doing several UV disinfection projects. I'm doing one up in the Allentown area too, a 10 MGD system. There's only one. Yeah, it's not uncommon. I'm guessing this is a small community system of some sort.
Yes.
I formerly, in my former life, I worked for Upper Euclid, which had 4 or 5 community systems, and they're difficult to deal with because you got a small number of users trying to support it. The other problem with those systems is you have a minor leak, let's say 20,000 gallons at West Grove, which has an average daily flow of maybe 200, 230. 20,000 is significant, but it's manageable. But if you have a 30,000 gallon per day plant and you get 10,000 gallon a day leak, you've got a problem. So they're difficult in the sense you got to stay on top of them. And it's difficult when you have to upgrade, which I've been through, where sometimes you make a capital assessment against the property owners that are connected. That's a tough sell. So there's a lot of difficult issues, but we've been involved in that before. And I don't know if that's a drip or spray system. I wouldn't be surprised, or is stream discharge.
I don't know.
It's drip.
Drip.
So at Upper Euclid, we had many spray and drip systems. That's where I knew Sandra Morgan most. I don't know if you know Sandra Morgan at AECOM. I just figured she was the person. I didn't know that it wasn't in your minutes, but I was guessing. And she works in this area, and she's top shelf. She knows her stuff. You have a question?
I'm just, I've been watching the road work in West Grove, so I'm watching you in progress.
That's on Oakland Avenue. That is a grant project, community revitalization plan. I can say grant projects, we've done streetscapes throughout the borough and replaced some of the utilities underneath. In that case, we replaced every utility and modified the water a little bit. But we've done Hillside over the years, Edge Hill. We did a hometown streets project on Evergreen, the main east-west drag in the borough, Oakland Avenue. Now we've done Rose Hill Circle. We've done water main work on Guernsey. Almost every part of the borough has been affected, and that county program, which is focused on urban areas, has been a real godsend to them. And it's a relatively easy paper system. County is as good as you're going to get on a grant system. They're wonderful to work with. They have a little turnover in personnel, but they've all been good people to work with.
Well, we've just finished our 10-year plan, so we are very proud of that. That was a hard year's work for everybody, but I'm glad you had a chance to look at that. That's our sight forward.
We knew you're working on your comprehensive plan. I mean, that's in your minutes too. And because that is a time consuming process.
All right, so we are at time. Is there any other comments or questions for this? All right, well, thank you all for coming this evening. I appreciate it. Nice presentation. Thank you.
You did a very nice job.
Yeah.
Thank you. And if you have questions beyond this, feel free to contact us. Things are a little sketchy at times, but we are available and we will make time available.
I mean, I know Christmas coming up.
You're welcome. It's a privilege to be here and we look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
The second mic over there.
Okay. Megan was going to try and join the Zoom call here just to pull up a quick presentation that we have. So just while she's doing that, there you go. She's right there. So I got Mark Gordon with me here. Mark Gordon is one of our partners that handles zoning and codes. Megan Tadera, also from Pannoni, and I'm Nate Klein. So appreciate you guys taking a few minutes tonight. We're going to run through briefly kind of just who Pannoni is. I assume you guys probably don't have a lot of familiarity, but as Jeff knows, we were actually the township engineer here years ago. A little bit before my time, maybe the previous generation, frankly, but when I mentioned to some other people in the company, everybody started exchanging some notes, which was interesting. So, but we're a company based out of Philadelphia, but we are in the Westchester office. So I'm the office director for our Westchester office. We've got about 30 staff in the Westchester office, handling mostly Chester and Delaware County clients. We kind of do two sides of the coin out of that office. We do municipal and we do land development. So we work for developers. Obviously, we never work in the same communities or the same clients, things like that. Any luck or?
Permission to share.
Oh. There you go. So like I said, we're out of Westchester. I just live right on the other side in East Goshen. Megan's in West Whiteland, as is Mark. We've been in Westchester now about going on 16 years, I want to say. So I actually started the office out there back in 06, 3 or 4 of us. And like I said, we're up to 30 people up in the Westchester office now, which is pretty cool. So again, here's all of us right here. Outside of this, I'm also a member of the Chester County Planning Commission. I'm currently vice chair. Afraid when I get to the January meeting, they may ask me to be the chairman. So we'll see what that might change come the new year. I am the vice chairman for TMAC. If you don't know TMAC, Transportation Management Association of Chester County. If you see the scoot bus running out to Oxford, we operate that bus, as well as the Link bus up in Coatesville, amongst other things. And like I said, I've been at Pinoni since 2000. Both of these guys are actually on the West Whiteland Planning Commission. So again, just kind of shows our involvement with different things there. Like I said, we're a big firm, right? I don't want to hide that. We are a big firm, 1,200 people. We're all over the East Coast at this point, but we're local. We're in Westchester. I'm doing Delaware, Chester County clients every day. That's what we're doing. That's what we all do. But what's nice is we have essentially what's on the right-hand side there is we have the guy. So, Jeff calls and says, hey, we need someone to figure out how to get this roof squared away. We have the roofing expert. We've got an environmental issue. We've got the expert. You have a structural issue. We have the guy. So when all these things come up, we have that guy or girl or that professional to take care of that situation. So you're not going out getting a third party. We're not getting another proposal. We're moving along, getting things done. So that's what we bring to the table, but it's the same thing, just with a nice local office. And then something else I always like to point out, kind of on the top right there, we're an ESOP. For those who don't know what an ESOP is, employee owned. So for about 10 years now, it's been owned by the majority of the employees. So we all have stock every year based on our performance. That's how we do. So that's what gets distributed, which is kind of, again, makes it all as employees a little bit more worthwhile. This is our office here in town. Like I said, 30 staff. That's literally our Christmas picture from our Christmas lunch the other day. And like I said, we've got about 30 people in Westchester coming, oddly enough, with Delaware. So, we have some Southern Chester County staff, some Western Delaware County staff, but kind of all around that nexus there. So this is kind of just a slide here that talks about our client base. We have a really, really wide range of clients. God bless Megan. She is at Yaden Borough meetings on a regular basis. Yaden Borough has significantly different needs than Franklin Township. But we also do, clients like Haverford Township, again, large needs, East Brandywine, East Goshen Township, where I live, New Garden Township, right next door. So again, a real host of clients here, Kennett Square Borough. So we've got a nice client basis that we do in Delaware and Chester counties. And I personally am the New Garden Township engineer. I was the New Garden Township engineer. It goes back 10, 12 years ago. We brought somebody else in. We're now actually back in as of last year, working with Steve Allen and everybody over there. So, I trust you guys know a little bit what the township engineer role is. Obviously, it's different in every municipality, what the needs are, what the skill set of your staff is, public works staff, other vendors. But these are kind of the sample of services that we perform for most of our municipal clients. So I'll walk through most of these here today, but this just kind of give you a slice of what we do and kind of what our capabilities are. So MS4 permitting, it's kind of the bane of everybody's existence right now. We do it for a whole host of clients. We have somebody like Lower Marion Township who is spending, $2.5 million a year on it. We have clients who are saying, I don't want to spend more than $5,000 and I don't want to get slapped by the DEP. So we can kind of fit to the client's needs. We're happy to kind of find that middle ground and work with you guys or whatever your goals are. Every municipality's got different goals and how much they want to get into the weeds on these types of issues. But we've been finding that everybody's got a little bit different, interest in that process. So this is grants. You guys aren't going to be able to read this. And that's on purpose. This is literally the list of grants that frankly, Megan and I have prepared just here in 22. When I say we, I said either her or I or both of us have literally submitted every single one of these grants on the screen. So far out of these 36 that we've applied for this year, we've already been awarded $2 million for our clients. And we've got about $8 million pending out in the street. That includes about 7 grants submitted today. For what was that for?
DEP's, ARPA, H2O, and small water and sewer program.
So, so with grants, Megan's really our lead out of our Westchester office. We actually also have a full-time grant administrator out of Philly who kind of monitors all the grants going on kind of region-wide, nationwide. But Megan and I take the lead. We've been very successful in implementing a lot of grant projects over the years. And I think, that's one of our strengths in our office. It's different for every community. A lot of times it's a twofold process. One, you guys have something planned, budgeted, intended. The other is, hey, there's a grant. This is a grant. You guys could be successful. Here's an opportunity. Let's brainstorm. Let's figure out what this is. We pull the comp plan, or you guys have some stuff in your back pocket. So there's all different programs out there right now, and it's just becoming more and more prevalent with different funding sources coming out there.
If I can just jump in with a question on the grant writing, do you, hunt for grants for your clients, or do you just, we present you with some ideas and then you would help us write? How does that go?
No, I would argue that we hunt. I mean, every time a grant opportunity comes up,
Yeah.
the first thing we do is we sit there and say, okay, what do we have in the queue, or what is somebody working on? What's out there? I'll be honest, I don't know this community like the back of my hand like I do Westchester Borough. So that's going to be more of a discussion, getting up to speed, understanding what your needs are. But we're going to, if we were to be appointed, I guarantee you on January 15th, you're going to get an email that says, hey, March 31st, DCNR C2P2 grants are due. We can get grants for this, or this. What are you guys thinking? Hey, we have money budgeted. We don't have money. We got a stream project. We have a park project. And then we'll start putting the pieces together. And then we can do as much or as little as you guys need. If Jeff wants to handle all the administrative work, God bless him, go with it. If you want Megan to do it all, she'll do it all. She knows all the grant personnel. She handles a lot of the administration for a lot of our clients. But at a minimum, plans, cost estimating is typically the service that we provide at a bare minimum to help with the grant stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Stormwater, obviously, that's a big concern across the board. Just got some photos here of some recent projects. These are actually Westchester Borough projects. Just a lot of stream restoration work we've been doing. You think it's kind of maybe urban stormwater problems, but there's similar stormwater problems I'm seeing in a place like New Garden, incised streams, erosion, things of that nature. Top one was a little bit more of a backyard kind of infill, restabilization. The bottom pictures was more of a structural. We came and did a poured in place wall, matched it to the rocks and everything like that, working with the residents, easements, the whole thing. But again, we do that soup to nuts. Working with Public Works, what's the project? What's the budget? Out to bid, get the permit, run the project, construction management, projects closed out. These projects were capital projects, but you'll see some other ones where they were grant funded projects as well. Visualization, it's actually something we also run out of our Westchester office. I got some snapshots here. What we do is our office does all the design, call it DV, but for all kinds of different projects. So Megan is working on an amphitheater in Aston Township, Delaware County. So we came up with that rendering and using that to go out and get our grants, using that to get community support, using that to go out to get the partner funding. So those are just some examples of what we do to help kind of build all those different projects. Doesn't apply to every project, doesn't make sense for every project. But you got something going on here in the village of Kemplesville where you're trying to sell a vision, where you're trying to get everybody on board, property owners, grant, stakeholders, the state rep. That's what sells that vision and starts building that package a little bit. What else we got? Trails and open space. Obviously, that's a big priority out here for you guys. It's something we've been working on in a lot of our communities. This is just more of a specific example I wanted to provide. So I've been working for a long time in Concord Township, Delaware County. So if you head east on Route 1 or north, depends, everybody goes a little bit different, but in my mind, you're traveling east, even though it's north, I guess, technically. But Route 1, 322, 202, that whole area, very developed, highly developed community, not Franklin Township. I get that. But because of that development that they've had over the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, they've actually had the inverse, which is, okay, wow, we've got to protect this real estate. We've got to get open space. We need to start connecting all these communities. So they've kind of had this inverse operation. So going back to, I forget what year it was, maybe 15 or 16, same discussion. We need money for grants. We want to acquire properties. So we said, let's do a greenways and open space plan. And since that day, we've been working that plan, executing that plan with projects, grant monies, et cetera. So if Megan goes to the next slide, you can see we pulled this together for the supervisors for their community day. And we said, look, this is what we're doing. And every one of these projects, and again, it's purposely, there's a lot of detail in there, but all these projects really blossom from that. And these are all different grant projects that we're either completed or working on or in process. And this isn't even all of them. But, that's when you start working a plan like your guys' 22 comp plan. You start working that plan, those goals and objectives, and execute, get that grant money and execute those projects. I'll go back. I'm sorry, go back one more to find that real quick. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention too, we have planners. We've got planners and landscape architects in our office. So again, when you're looking to do a study, you get a VPP grant from the county, you want to do the park analysis, you want to do the Kemblesville Village plan, we have those planners. And we've got some backup ones in our Camden and Philadelphia offices. So we can do all that type of planning work as well. So I didn't want to misstate that that's something that frankly, I enjoy, even though I'm not a planner, I like to pretend I am sometimes. Sustainability, I think we're gonna get a big push here in Q1 next year. That grant money is coming down from this federal to the state level. Gonna see a big push for charging stations, fleet conversions, solar fields. Again, we've got a whole MEP, mechanical electrical plumbing group. That's actually out of our Newark, Delaware office, which is right down the road. So again, that's something we're helping the communities with as they start figuring out, okay, does it make sense? Do we want to do it? Level 3, level 2 charging. There's so many different variables there, but starting to get everybody churning on these types of conversations. Sorry, I talked very fast. I apologize. Wait till you can get in the morning after 2 coffees. So this is, and maybe Megan, you want to speak to this, you can speak with the mic there, but. Go.
So as part of our company, we have an intelligent pavement management program, which is a partnership with Robotics. We have drivers internally that drive the network with a cell phone mounted to the inside of the vehicle, take snapshots every 5 to 10 feet, provides a rating 1 to 5, and then has a pretty much at the end of the day, a snapshot, an objective snapshot of your road conditions. And from there, you can, assist public works, make maintenance programs, 5-year planning and budget for road programs as well. So there's a lot of options and capabilities.
We started using robotics about 3 years ago on our road system. So Jeff's our fleet of people.
Yep. Oh, there you go.
So yeah, we're pretty well versed in robotics.
Look at you guys. All right, you guys are ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So I did a ride around in 2020. And then I'm going to do another one right around springtime of 2023.
Great. There you go. There you go. You guys are on the cutting edge. So I don't have to pitch you on that one. But yeah, so Megan runs that. That was actually New Garden Township. We just did it for them over the summer. On that picture, GIS, again, don't know what your capabilities are. Obviously, again, every community has different needs. The county's got a great GIS system. So a lot of the county, clients, municipalities in Chester County don't have their own system, but again, we can prepare all different types of maps. Again, just kind of a sample of different maps we work on. Literally just updated the snowplow map for one of my clients saying, hey, I got 2 new guys and 2 new trucks. I want to do the routes this way. I got it. It's on GIS. They're entering into all their data on their trucks and they're ready to go. Capital projects. This is a little bit more of a kind of an overview, but again, there's really not a project that's too big for us. Again, at Pannoni, we do major projects. We do large projects. We're doing, Vine Street. We're doing, I-95. I get that. That's not what we do every day. We do these projects, the playgrounds, the streetscapes, pickleball courts, roundabouts. These are all projects Megan and I have literally done in all our different communities. Pickleball courts, we put in 6. We did 6 pickleball courts in Concord Township. I kid you not, if there's not 100 people there every morning when I get to that office. We put in 6 more. There's now 200 people there every morning. Literally, probably 2 years ago, I wouldn't know what pickleball was. And it's been the most successful project I've ever been a part of. So I can't figure that one out, but it's pretty wild. So, and those are pretty nice ones. We put concrete and cable stays, and they're kind of the Cadillac of pickleball courts, but they were pretty legit. But all kinds of other stuff. Park projects. The park project in the middle has a big grant project through DCNR. The one on the bottom right was a streetscape in Aston. Again, grant funding from PennDOT.
So can I just so you say we put it in, what does that mean?
So for something like the pickleball?
Or any of these projects, are you designing it, or you're not physically putting in, there's a contractor that does that, right?
I don't get my hands dirty like that.
Okay.
No, but we'll do again, concept, design, grant funding, if that's necessary, capital planning with the townships, budgeting, figuring out the money. Again, either going after the grant, administering the grant, and then we'll take the project, design it, permit it if necessary, put it out to bid, do the whole bid management, award it, and then we do the construction management. We get it all the way through construction until it's open and we're done with all the payments. So that's, again, I could give you a list of dozens of stuff we're currently working, repointing a historic building, we're doing the annual road programs, all over the place. So all those types of projects.
When you talk about bid management, does your size play into this as a selling point in the sense that you have more touch points, more people that you can, that would be willing to bid?
I think I like to think our reputation precedes us. I think we have good relationships with a lot of contractors out there. So when they see we're running a project, I think it tells them they've got somebody they can work with. So I think, again, I can't speak to every contractor. I'm sure we've had some issues where we butted heads, but I do think most times we get a good number of projects. We just bid a project, East Goshen Municipal Authority, that we thought was going to come in at $1.5 million, came in at like $650,000, 12 bidders. And again, I think it just, okay, we can figure something out. You know what I mean? Because there's got to be a little bit of back and forth in some of those biddings and some of those contracts within the law, but you got to be able to work with everybody. And I think Pannoni's reputation, our field guys, construction management team, I think, that precedes us in most cases. And
I just asked,
go ahead.
so you made a comment, your field guys, like, who do we deal with? So
that's a good question. So I didn't want to bring like the whole army here tonight. But I think before I get to Mark, it's going to be Megan and I are going to be the face people, so I think what Megan and I thought was Megan's an EIT. I'm a professional engineer. So EIT, then you become a professional engineer. We probably split the duties a little bit. I'd probably be more with the board meetings, whereas Megan might take the lead more on the planning commission meetings or, and see how that goes. Day to day, I would be the person, Jeff, I'll direct Jeff, but like you are allowed to call me if Jeff says so. I don't care how it works, but you would be calling me. Okay. Yeah. So, but I'd be the person that's picking up the phone, signing off on the letters and getting things done. Yeah, I would be that person. And then probably the third person of our team would be John Renzo. He's a 20-year field guy for Pannoni. I was going to bring him out here tonight. He lives just over the border in Delaware. But again, I just didn't want to have too many people here tonight, but he would be the kind of the field person. So again, construction inspection, stormwater inspections, land development projects. If we were to do like the road program, for example, he would be out here. He would do that whole project. So he would take the lead on a lot of the capital projects. So again, Megan would do a little bit more, maybe the administrative side of that project. John would do more of the technical side of that project and then the field work, if that makes sense. So it's a team, like I said, we got 30 people. We don't all touch everything, but there'll probably be a core team of about 3 people besides Mark, just from Pannoni, that would be involved. So this is Mark, and I've been doing all the talking, but I'll let Mark talk for a few minutes. This is a little bit late in the game, and I'll apologize, but after talking to Jeff last week, I know there was a separate kind of RFP for zoning code services. Mark and I have a relationship going back, geez, how long now? 15 years. Mark was the former code officer in East Goshen Township, where I live. I was actually on the planning commission in East Goshen Township and the Commerce Commission for years with Mark. We actually ended up getting then appointed township engineer in East Goshen at a certain point. And then Mark left East Goshen. But what's been nice is we've had some issues where, again, when somebody's got a problem, they want them to call me first. Lower Chichester, hey, our code guy, he's going to have surgery. He's going to be out for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. We don't know what to do. I got a guy. And I had that guy, and it was Mark. And Mark says, hey, I can step in, fill that void for you and help out on an interim basis until they figure things out. Same thing in New Garden. Chris Adamek in New Garden left. Steve Alaban calls me at 4 o'clock on a Friday, says, I need a guy. I'm like, I think I got a guy. and again, we partner with Mark, and we've worked long enough that we know each other. I know his skill set, that we can count on each other, so that Mark was able to step into New Garden as well. So once I talked to Jeff and got a little bit more understanding of the project, we don't house that in-house. The zoning code stuff, it's a unique skill set, and it starts getting into that building code world. It's a tough one to constantly fill. So right now we've been kind of partnering with Mark. It's been very successful in both of those municipalities. And then once Jeff gave me a little bit of the clarity of what the demands were, hey, we don't need somebody 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. We need some part-time help and all that. That's where I said, okay, I think maybe we do have that guy, and it would be Mark.
Yeah, I think
So
typically
I just did all your talking points.
but I think so you wouldn't be a permanent solution if we were to need a zoning and code and zoning officer.
Well,
or are you saying you would be? You would be. Okay.
so yeah, we could fill your need, I think, here, depending on the scope and the level of development and the amount of permitting that's going on, the zoning challenges that you have. I've seen most of them. I was trained by one of the best municipal managers in all of Chester County. He was 52 years at East Goshen Township, and I learned a lot from him over the years. And I think we've got a good team here. I can lean on Nate and Megan and their team. So yeah, there's not many things in zoning that I can't figure out. And I'm also a master planner, been on the planning commission for 10 years in West Whiteland Township. So, I'm retired military, so I'm solutions oriented and goal driven. So I'm here to assist your residents to bring their projects to life.
Yes, so I guess it's not so much, could you do it? Do you have the bandwidth to do it? That's
Well, and Yeah, well, I'll speak for Mark. And that's what we weren't sure of really until last week, once we got a little bit more clarity from Jeff of the workload. You know,
Right.
you guys have, then,
It's not full time.
it's not full time. And I think Lower Chichester was one that was a clearly a temporary one that was ramping down. New Garden, they're going to be filling that position at some point too. So I think we had that flexibility where we said, yeah, we can make this work based on what Jeff thinks the needs are, office time, being present, and then also just Mark being in New Garden. Okay, well, I'll go to New Garden for the morning. I'll be over here in the afternoon. And then it just makes it that much easier for everybody too. So we think we can make that work.
Yeah, the interesting comment you made, Mark, and I don't know if you realize how important it is that we're not here. I mean, we want to help our residents, right? We're not here to take the rule book and bang it over their heads and saying, do you realize chapter 43 of this? It's like, okay, you understand that we understand the intent of the code and you're trying to work with them to you know what they want to do, you know what the rules are, and trying to bring those two together. So we solve problems, not make more problems.
Absolutely. It's common sense. I mean, we have a rule book but we're not going to use it as a roadblock for people. It's going to be an opportunity to explain, these are the challenges we have with your project. Let's look at it. Let's see if there's a way to tweak the building, put it in a different spot so you don't have to go through the zoning hearing board. Those are the kind of solutions that I like to bring to residents. Oh, well, you can just save me all kinds of time and money. And if I had to get an attorney, it's like,
That's what we want to hear about.
So, yeah.
It's not just a no.
So let me open it up for questions.
Well, and Ken, with that, one of the things we're trying to do, and we're a small organization compared to a lot of these things you've done with open space and trails and stuff. Our dream would have all connecting trails, but you have to be gentle with the people. There are a lot of people that aren't buying into that right now. But, so that's part of the thing that we're dealing with is we want to.
I can speak to, as a municipal client of Pinoni's when I was with East Goshen, it was the same thing. It was, Mr. Smith said, hey, what do you think about this project? I said, that's great. I'd like to be the lead on that. And we got 2.7 mile trail that we wanted to put in. And okay, we're going to need easements. We're going to need grants. We're going to need all that. So I ran with it. And within 6 months, I had $3.1 million in grants for one project. And it was great. We were just flying.
I guess what
it's competitive now. It's a lot more competitive out there now, but yeah.
What I'm saying on our end,
Yeah.
we have trouble convincing our residents because
Community
you
engagement.
need leeway through their
Well,
backyard or
sure.
they see the word trail coming through their farm, they're gonna.
you got a big ag,
So
you have a big ag
it's-
community, and it's easy to say, we're just going to take this little trail and route it around the corner of your farm, and it's going to connect 2 points. And it's like, well, do I want people on my property? And
And
what
it's
about
not-
insurance? It's just not that easy. And
Right,
it takes time.
right.
We're working on, actually, I don't know if it comes through you guys or not, but the old Octorara line,
Right,
if you know that line, we're actually working on that trail.
right.
Hugely complicated, same exact
Okay.
problem. For everybody that wants it is a biker and a tree lover, there's a person that sits over my dead body. And it's
Right.
complicated. It's
Okay.
extremely complicated. It takes a lot of time.
And
But
now,
you guys have a lot of, I was looking at the map and the comp plan there. And, again, connecting all these little dots and being able to walk from this wine spot to that wine spot to Capital.
see that,
There's a lot of potential there, but
right,
it's not something that's going to happen in 2 years. So but
That's
you,
right.
you get the low hanging fruit, you chip away at it, you find some money and you build to that plan. So that
Right.
10 years from now, all those dashed lines on that plan are filled in,
right,
or 75% or something like that.
right.
Mark, some of this work is also rather mundane. I mean, just going to, and just to make sure you're okay, this is like going out and looking at to make sure that someone got their permit. I know we're talking about some more grandiose things earlier, but are you fine with that?
Oh, yeah. As a code enforcement officer, as a zoning officer, there's an old saying, don't argue with the zoning officer. They love to argue, but, there are also those inspections you have to do and you have to meet people and talk with them and it's all part of the job.
And Nate, is the billable rate the same for EIT, you and Mark? Would it be?
No. I would take on a rate as township engineer. Megan would be something maybe 1 or 2 notches below. I don't know if we pulled that out or not in the rate schedule, but I can confirm that with Jeff if I didn't. But we would separate that out. And then Mark would also be a step or 2 below as well. So I can kind of confirm what those numbers are, but we have some flexibility on that too. certainly don't want that to be the hill we die on with you guys. If that's a big concern, we can work with you guys a little bit on that too. Every client's a little bit different. Every classification is not set in stone. Is Jeff allowed to ask questions?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
One thing I know we had talked about, but just so the board understands, if we choose Panoni,
Mhm.
how can we hit the ground running on the building inspection side of things?
Building inspection side of things, I think, if you guys give us the green light on January 2nd at the reorg meeting, it's contact Mark and I, and we find a time, and probably don't even need me for that first meeting, but okay, what days am I coming out? I'll come out Tuesday afternoons and Thursday afternoons, or Tuesday afternoons and Thursday mornings. But Mark would literally, from a building code standpoint, he would be running full steam at that.
So he would be doing the building inspections.
No,
Oh, you're saying for like
for actual construction projects. So we'd have to find a solution there.
yeah,
We
so
would.
go ahead, explain it so everybody understands better.
So, you have the third parties that are out there, right? And that's what you're kind of looking for. We'd have to find a solution for a commercial and residential, probably residential to start. It's probably the major hurdle here.
Yeah, and so probably what we would do, and again, I don't have it tonight because again, it just kind of all came together. We partner with BIU, Building Inspection Underwriters. Again, working with them in New Garden Township. Mark's working with them in New Garden Township. So if we need specific code services, they work with us as a sub in Concord Township as well. So we would route specific code inspection type stuff to them. Mark would handle the zoning permits, the zoning, the BCO duties, things of that nature. Does that kind of make sense? Yes. Yeah. Everything would be kind of through Panoni, one invoice. You're not dealing with 2-3 different companies. Anyway, so everything would be part of Panoni.
Yeah.
Does
So,
that make sense, Mark?
The two guys we're working with, I'm sorry, the two gentlemen I'm working with in New Garden Township are super great with residents, very easy to work with, efficient, and they're only in their part-time as well. So I think it can be done, for sure.
so realistically, again, if we choose you, how would you see the transition period and going forward with the building permits and the inspections? Do you think that's something that would be a month, 3 months?
Honestly, with Mark here, and Mark just got off his big vacation cycle of hunting all over the state of Pennsylvania and New York, right? So I think we can hit the ground running. It would probably take, it's going to take a month. It's going to take a month of being present, understanding the system, going through the permits, the files, how you guys do things. But again, he's worked in one township for a long time. He's working in 2 other municipalities. It's not foreign concept. It's all very easy. So it's just a matter of getting used to your system, how you do it, what you do, what the timing is. And again, I think it's a 2-day, part day a week type thing. And I think we'd be running probably within a month or so, give or take.
How many days are you in New Garden?
To give an example,
Question you asked that.
at 2 days in New Garden right now, and so are the building inspectors. So when I started out there, it was October 1st, I believe. And we, within a month, we had our whole process down because their zoning officer was doing everything. Everything. So we had to really determine how to break up those duties. So within 5 weeks, we were cooking with gas, and they have a pretty heavy workload with permitting.
Yeah, I mean, they've got
They got a lot.
going on over there, especially with the mushroom industry and some of the industrial stuff they have going on.
Okay. So we're at time.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments before we? All right, well, I want to thank you for coming out. It was an excellent presentation.
No, thanks, guys. Yeah, appreciate your
Thank
time
you for
and
the time. I appreciate it.
good questions. Jeff knows how to reach me. So anything after this, you guys are welcome to reach out.
All right,
and,
thank you very much.
Yeah, looking forward to talking to you guys again. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, so I think we can open up to our last firm, Arrow. And you can take it away.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Casey Lalonde. I'd like to introduce Andrew Tulea. He's our MS4 specialist. And Al Vinatelli, he's the proposed point of contact. And we'll have Al do a full introduction of himself as well with Andrew. You all have our presentation in front of you. Very good. So just a brief history of Arrow. We're a 76-year-old engineering firm. We approach engineering in a very multidisciplinary team approach fashion. We have now 6 offices across Eastern Pennsylvania, 1 in Maryland. And any projects that come up, capital projects, MS4, we pull the personnel we need from each office with their specialties. We do across the board, everything from capital projects, road programs, general engineering. We even do solid waste bids for clients as well. We have a full MS4 program with Andrew's division as well. Full plan reviews, everything from a 2-lot subdivision, single lot land development, all the way up to multi-hundred unit land developments that occur with our clients throughout Chester County. And again, we service pretty much Eastern Pennsylvania and Maryland as well with our services. We also do a full zoning, code enforcement, building codes official work as well. And I think that's part of the presentation tonight as well. We do parks and recreation planning, master plans for parks, trails, anything recreation wise for construction. We have a full, we have grants writers on staff. We've won several millions of dollars of grants in the past few years for our clients, H2O, water grants, just about everything across the board with grants as well. For our capital projects, we do everything from start to finish. We work with the staff, the elected officials. If you have a capital project coming up, we sit with you all, we sit with the staff to understand the project. We provide a proposal for services. We take everything from design all the way through construction management, design, construction management, construction observation, all the way through project closeout. If it's a grant funded project, we'll apply for the grants for you, take that grant project all the way through to grant closeout as well with our staff members. We have a full staff of geologists, scientists that we have on staff to meet your needs. We also have structural engineers. We just put out to bid and received bids on 2 bridge projects for one of our larger clients. The client is approving those bids tomorrow night at their last meeting of the year. So again, we took those 2 projects from from design all the way through the full bidding process. We will take them then through construction management. And then they're FEMA projects as well. So we're doing the FEMA work for them as well. So we'll take them all the way through FEMA closeout and bid and close out on those projects. Another one of our great strengths is water and wastewater. I understand you don't have any public sewer in Franklin. On lots, we can help review on lot systems for single family homes or small developments, package plants, whatever you need with those kind of reviews. And again, one of our strengths is also doing the annual road programs for our clients. Again, all the way through design, bidding, construction management, construction observation, all the way through closeout. So that's just a quick general overview of our services. We've grown pretty steadily as a company over the past year. We're up to about 215 employees in those 6 offices. So again, we can draw from our strengths throughout the offices with all of our employees to provide all the services that you need pretty much on a daily basis. So I'd like to turn it over to Al for intro. And
Hello, my name's Al Vinatelli. Just to give you a little bit of my background, I graduated from Michigan Tech University in 1987. I've been a licensed professional engineer since 1991. I am licensed in 2 states, Michigan and Pennsylvania. Basically, I've been doing in Pennsylvania, I've been doing municipal engineering for about 15 years. For various municipalities. I've done work for West Goshen Township, East Bradford Township, East Whiteland Township, East Town Township, and several others. I do everything from project administration for capital projects, taking it from start to finish. I do, I coordinate saldo reviews. I've done many pavement repair projects where I do the evaluation of the roadways, basically take it from start to finish, prepare the plans and specifications, put it out to bid on pen bid, evaluate the bids, make the recommendation to the township on who to award the bids to, all the way through. And I've even handled the PennDOT liquids fuels documentation and approval through the entire process, so that, you know, there's no issues when there's audits for things like that. That's basically in a quick nutshell. I know that Andrew has a lot he's going to say regarding MS4, so I'm going to pass it on to him, and then any questions you have.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Talea, and I manage Origin, which is a division of Aero, and we specialize in GIS as well as MS4. So tonight I'm going to give everyone here some information about how we help many municipalities comply with MS4 permitting, and give you some examples of some clients where we have successfully maintain permits, as well as help them construct structural BMPs to meet some of their MS4 permit requirements specific to the pollution reduction plans and TMDL plans as part of their 5-year permit cycle. So in the that I gave you, I have my memo of my presentation. I also provided some examples at the back of this memo that I'll speak to as well. And I also provided some content such as educational materials, staff training for MS4 compliance, as well as some presentations which outline processes that we've taken part in helping municipalities meet their pollution reduction plans. And one thing I want to point out, as Casey mentioned, MS4 is a team approach. It's not just me calling the shots and making decisions. We are made up of GIS professionals, CAD professionals, design engineers, compliance specialists. So one thing that I'm very proud of with Aero is that it's multiple people with different backgrounds and different opinions, providing our best thoughts on how to help our clients meet their goals, whether it's MS4 or structural BMPs. It's a team effort, and we serve many municipalities in Pennsylvania as well as the state of Maryland. And so we are familiar not only with Pennsylvania MS4 regulation, but regulation in other states as well. And in terms of our background, I have a lot of, maybe not as many years of experience as Al or Casey here, but I do have experience in the private consulting realm. We have people that previously had served as consultants for regulatory agencies where they're helping them write legislation. We also have staff that has experience working for municipalities directly and MS4 compliance and designing BMPs and figuring out calculations on how to meet those BMPs through different projects. So again, I think diversity in terms of background and personnel is an enormous strength of Aero's in our MS4 group. And again, our goal is to maintain your permit compliance. It's also to fulfill your expectations to the maximum extent possible, and provide you with quality and sustainable solutions, whether it's reporting or structural projects or anything MS4 stormwater related. We want to give you, quality solutions in order to maintain your compliance. And just speaking to MS4, so for those that may not know, municipalities that are designated to have an MS4 permit in the state of Pennsylvania are either designated as a general permit holder or an individual permit holder. From my understanding, the township is an individual permit holder with an active MS4 permit, as well as an active TMDL requirement, if I'm not mistaken. So we serve many municipalities that fit that requirement.
And we provide support in a number of ways. There are many municipalities where it is solely on Arrow to fulfill every single minimum control requirement on an annual basis, including public education, conducting and planning public involvement events, doing your outfall inspections, coordinating any required maintenance of infrastructure to municipal staff, stormwater plan review, active construction site inspections. We also are really getting knee deep into the post-construction management and inspections with all the new requirements that have come out under DEP. We also help municipalities and their staff create good housekeeping and stormwater management plans for all municipal activities to ensure that municipal staff is complying with their permits. One thing that has been very apparent is that DEP is getting out and doing in-person inspections at municipal permit holder locations. I'm not sure if the township has been involved with an audit from DEP yet, but we actually attended a regional stormwater group meeting on Friday, and one of our individuals who is coming on to support MS4 full-time for our clients got word that DEP plans to audit every single Chester County municipality within its current permit cycle. And I can tell you that that EPA is working in the western part of the state to start to do inspections. So we will do an in-person audit with you. I have the checklist of exactly what they would be looking for. I've done multiple inspections myself, so our goal is to ensure that we catch anything before anybody else catches anything, and we work out a plan on how to maintain our compliance. We also do staff training, and as I mentioned, we also are fully capable of drafting, submitting, and planning projects for pollution reduction and TMDL plans, which again, for those that might not know, as in addition to the MS4 minimum control measures, education, involvement, and site utility inspections, you have to basically do a evaluation of your municipality. How much impervious, non-impervious surface do you have? How many existing stormwater BMPs do you have within your urbanized area that provide water quality treatment? And for all of your area, you have to provide 10% typically additional treatment over a 5-year period. We can completely do your plan, submit it, and in addition to that, also work on designing and working through the actual structural projects that are in that plan. We have the staff to do that. As I mentioned before, many municipalities say, hey, we need support doing all of our MS4. There's also the option where if a municipality wants to fulfill some of their MS4 obligations and assign Arrow certain tasks on an annual basis, we can work that out as well, where if you have the staff to do certain things, by all means, we encourage you to work with us to figure out who can do what. And there's some municipalities that say, hey, we can handle it all. Just look at our report at the end of the year and make sure that we're not making errors before we submit it to DEP. So, but we are fully capable of supporting any MS4 program, all the MCMs and the pollution reduction plans and TMDL requirements. I'll just go over some recent accomplishments that we have taken part in. I was talking about audits. I have been involved with 4 DEP audits in the past 16 months. Some of them we got a week and a half notice. Some we got less than 5 days notice that DEP is coming out. And I'm happy to report that as a result of those audits for our clients, we have not been issued a fine. In my time at Arrow, we have not been issued a violation, and we have successfully demonstrated compliance with MS4 permitting for all of our clients. And full transparency, some of the audits that were conducted were at client sites where they insisted on doing a lot of the compliance. And I kid you not, 3 days before our audit, one of their staff came in with a leaking barrel of oil in their pickup truck, stained the entire parking lot. And we got it cleaned up in time, and we figured out a solution where no fines or violations were issued. So if at any point you would get notified that DEP is coming out, you call me right away. I come out and we figure out a plan on how you maintain your compliance at your location. And that includes making sure that no earth materials are stored outside, uncontained, making sure there's no trash and debris outside, making sure that you have a stormwater management plan at all facilities where hazardous materials are stored or utilized, I'm very happy with our track record and taking part in DEP audits and maintaining our compliance with our permit holders. And on top of that, we also engage in extremely proactive communication with state agencies, whether it's DEP or MDE. Some municipalities are afraid to reach out to those agencies for certain reasons, but I see it as a positive if we're on the same page. We have a very strong relationship with DEP Southeast Office and their staff. Many times before we submit our pollution reduction plans, we will get them looked at off the record by DEP so that we can address any of their concerns prior to actual submission. And we often hold meetings with state agencies to review either our pollution reduction plans or any questions that we have with MS4.
It's interesting. How do you do that? Because we're in a situation where we had a permit. I don't even think it's approved yet, right? So we got rejected. I mean, we spend lots of time on it. We send it to them. It sits in their desk for years. And you're able to actually get them to look at it as a favor to you. How do you do that?
Well, so we've developed personal relationships with a lot of the staff there. And so, I think it's obvious that they themselves have staffing issues and it's been exacerbated in the past 2 or 3 years. But we have worked with some DEP staff to essentially get their feedback on our draft plans before the official submission goes through, where it's, hey, I know that you're not giving me official yes, no, whether this PRP will fly or not, but they can point out anything that might be a comment that they foresee if we did submit that draft. So, and again, there've been multiple people that have been heading up the Southeast office that we are in contact with. So, we just, reach out to them and if they don't respond, we politely remind them that we are looking to do this PRP, but what I found is, unfortunately, if you submit your plan, it's not uncommon for plans just to get lost in the shuffle. Or if somebody leaves DEP, like there was a person who reviewed multiple PRPs 2 years ago, and he was great. He would correspond with me during the review process, ask questions about our report, and then he left. And then it seemed like that all these reports just sat unapproved for a long period of time. Right. So. Yeah. So, and full transparency, you're not the only one. But no, you're not, it's not uncommon, but again, I see interaction with DEP only as a positive step. Again, I would never, make an assumption about compliance. If I thought that there would be an issue with how municipalities, maintain that compliance, I would always reach out to DEP and get their opinion. But again, on top of just doing MS4 compliance, once we would get that plan approved, we have a number of engineers who have stormwater design experience. And again, it's a group effort in terms of our GIS staff using our mapping, using our data to identify stormwater utilities, topography, working with the engineers to see what's possible, doing site visits to make sure that what we put on paper is physically possible. It's a team effort to get the projects approved and then to successfully design and install those projects. We also support municipalities with permit renewals as well as waiver applications. So I mentioned that I'm the head of Origin, which is GIS and MS4 integrated. We heavily rely on GIS technology to manage MS4, whether it's tracking BMPs or tracking utility locations. We also use our drone. Just head out the other day, taking pictures of a stormwater pond from above to assess the vegetation and to assess locations of standing water within the facility. We are very gung-ho about using technology to make not only our job more efficient, but to save time and in results, save our clients, time and effort spent on their projects with better quality products. So very forward thinking with technology. And we have experience creating public and private partnerships for MS4. I'm sure that some of you may know that in planning these pollution reduction and TMDL plans, you might not be able to design a project on your property. So you have to look at private property for those projects. And just this morning, I was talking with a property owner about retrofitting an existing dry basin in Lancaster County. talking about how we get potential grant funding to pay for that project. So we have experience with public-private partnerships, as well as working with other municipalities and non-municipal entities to partner on MS4 projects. We've been approached by PennDOT a number of times for municipalities that we work for, where PennDOT has an MS4 permit, just like the township does. PennDOT does not have a lot of land to install stormwater BMPs. So it seems like that we are coming across more opportunities with PennDOT per se, as an example, where, hey, we will install this project on your township property. We will either give you a reduced rate to purchase MS4 credits as part of your PRP, or we'll pay for the project altogether. We are fully on board for saving you money and meeting your requirement in the most cost-effective fashion as possible, even if it means cutting out design work for Aero. Our goal is to save you money and meet your requirements and maintain your compliance. Very experienced. It seems that like that's becoming more and more common, is where PennDOT and other agencies have their own permit and they want to do projects as a partnership. That's just MS4 compliance in general. I'll also now on page 3, I'll speak to some examples of some structural BMP projects that we have designed and utilized to meet some of our clients' PRP requirements. So the first client is the Dallas Area Municipal Authority up near Wilkes-Barre. We are currently designing BMP retrofits for the authority's jurisdiction. They have one of the largest PRP requirements that I've seen. And we have we did not submit their PRP. We actually resubmitted it from their prior engineer. And then once the PRP was approved, we did topographic surveys and studies in order to come up with a design for their stormwater retrofits. And we designed 30 retrofits across the authority's area. As of now, 15 of those have been constructed, and we anticipate that the remaining 15 will be retrofitted by the spring of 2023. And those projects consist of wet ponds, constructed wetlands, as well as extended detention basins, all built to the PA design manual standards. Again, we have the staff available to expedite 30 BMP retrofits in almost a year and a half. It's an enormous amount of work to do 1 or 2 retrofits. So the fact that we've done 30, I think, speaks to our flexibility with number of staff.
So you made a really good point that you came into a project that they already had a permit or permit process, and you took it over from another engineer, because that would be the same situation you would coming in here. Right. So how did you, because I personally don't want you blowing it all up and start and say, okay, goes away and we'll start all over again. So how do you handle that?
Well, so certainly we'd have to evaluate what the prior engineer put into place. And so if the plan had been approved and you were okay with the locations that were in that approved project, and there wasn't any issue with funding, I mean, certainly we would try to utilize locations that are cost effective in terms of giving you the maximum amount of credit for those projects. Having said that, there are a lot of cases where one engineering firm sees things one way, and then we say, you know what, you're proposing stream restoration here, here, and here. That might be great, but due to these circumstances, it might be better to see if you can put in a bioswale at this outfall location, because it's going to be more cost effective and you get more credit. So I think we would work as much as possible to implement the projects that have already been approved and that are cost effective based upon the credit received. But we would certainly point out if we think that we can get more bang for our buck in other locations. And certain projects are more flexible in terms of grant funding. Like, I know just off the top of my head, stream restoration typically has a little bit more flexibility with getting grants than just retrofitting like a stormwater basin. But I think what a lot of people also need to consider is, okay, it might cost a lot to do A, but if you do B, it's going to cut out your long-term maintenance costs and responsibilities. So for smaller municipalities that don't have that staff in-house that can do that maintenance, that has to be a consideration, as well as construction costs and other costs that go along with the entire lifespan of the project. So we would, in summary, we would do as much as we can to maintain the projects that you prefer and that have already been approved. But if we can save money on construction and long-term maintenance by resubmitting the PRP, that's something that we've actually done before. And again, from working with DEP, they have been a little more lenient with the requirements to revise a pollution reduction plan, depending on if you're totally scrapping all projects or we're just changing one or two projects. We have been able to expedite those PRPs to get reapproved rather quickly. So the second client that I want to talk about is Township. They have a pollution reduction plan, and we designed a bioswale to go in one of their parks. And they had an existing man-made channel dug around the perimeter of the park that received a large amount of drainage from existing stormwater infrastructure that we identified as a ideal location to retrofit that man-made swale into a bioswale. And we designed the swale to be able to convey the 100-year anticipated flow amount. And that bioswale alone met the entire PRP requirement of the township. Now, granted, it was only one part of their township that had the impaired waterway where we needed to do the PRP, but that one bioswale met their entire project. We worked with DEP prior to submission to make sure that our calculations made sense and then that our anticipated design made sense. We finished the design in 2021 and construction was finished in early summer. And one benefit of the project is that we were able to redesign an outdated pipe system and also work with the contractor to install additional stormwater infrastructure at that location. So we were able to help them meet their 5-year requirement in a very short time span. And the last Pennsylvania client I'll speak to is East Petersburg Borough in Lancaster County. We constructed we designed a bioswale, and this was at a location of existing stormwater infrastructure, and it was retrofitted into a bioswale again to convey the 100-year storm event and to provide enough pollution reduction plan credit to meet their a majority of their permit requirement. And it was designed in 2020. It is currently under construction, and we assisted them with obtaining a PA small water grant, and we received a grant for approximately $225,000 for the project. So they're getting their project, paid for. We're getting the project designed. It's a win for everybody. And lastly, we have also done some projects in the state of Maryland. So very similar requirements, different methodology, but the first example is the town of Thurmont. We are retrofitting 5 BMPs currently within the town to meet their pollution reduction plan requirement. And again, closely working with the MDE to make sure that we are meeting the design guidelines of their design manual. And we're also supporting the town of Walkersville with 2 BMP retrofits and 2 new BMPs for the town. And that's where we are developing a private public partnership with HOAs and property owners in the town to construct or retrofit stormwater facilities on their property. And we oversaw the site survey, infiltration testing, the wetlands delineation, and now we are finalizing the designs with the Soil Conservation District, working with MDE, and then ultimately submitting the plans to the county for review. And we anticipate that those projects will be implemented by 2025. Maryland has a little bit more time than PA, unfortunately. So, and then at the back of my memo here, I just have some photos and some maps that I included. Page 4, I have an example of how we use our drone to get overhead shots of stormwater facilities to map facilities and or, provide that information to our clients. Page 5, again, photo of an existing concrete swale that we're looking to retrofit. At the bottom of page 5, we used our drone to evaluate a stream for potential restoration. Page 6 and 7 are examples of how we conduct stormwater facility inspections. Page 7 is a 3D rendering, actually, where we took our drone and the drone spit out a 3D model of the stormwater basin. Again, we don't just say this because it's cool, but it does save a lot of time and effort, and it also gives us a lot of valuable data when we're actually doing the design process. And then on page 9, I have 2 examples of how we use GIS to track stormwater activities. So the dashboard at the top is a dashboard we actually built for a township in York County so that they can track all of their BMP inspections, outfall inspections, staff trainings, public complaints. We actually have their PA1 calls for stormwater automated with their GIS. So they get an email whenever PA1 calls are submitted to them. Very cool. And on the last page, what I have is an example of a online illicit discharge form that we created for a township, a borough where residents can actually submit illicit discharge concerns online. So just some examples if you'd like to look through those. And then, as I mentioned, I have some examples of educational materials that we provided on behalf of our clients to meet our annual education requirement. I have an example of staff training specifically for Township, where I do their annual staff training. And then for the 2 Maryland projects that I briefly spoke to, I have examples of presentations that I provided to both of their boards. In addition to Walkersville, we actually had the HOAs come in and meet with us, and I conducted this presentation. So these packets have some information about the projects, and we have some design concepts in here, and gives you an idea of how we work with municipalities as well as private property owners to meet MS4 and pollution reduction plan requirements. So that's all I have. Thank you for listening to my presentation.
All right, thank you. So why don't we open up for any questions? But before we do that, the other topic of conversation was to talk about zoning enforcement.
Yes,
And
definitely.
permitting.
We did submit a separate proposal for that.
Okay.
Out of the Westchester office, we currently have, we now have 6 UCC certified, and you have all that information in your proposal. Not going to waste a lot of time going into it, but we provide zoning and building inspection services across the board, from a simple residential alteration or a basement refit all the way through commercial inspections. So we can do everything across the board for inspections. We do code enforcement and we do zoning enforcement as well. So we can act as your zoning officer, code enforcement officer, and UCC inspector, all out of just our Westchester office.
Okay.
On a daily basis to what staffing level you need with Jeff.
Is that connected to your engineering services, or is that a separate service that we can hire?
It can be a separate service. We do that separately for some municipalities. Some we do both concurrently.
All right, great. Thank you.
Definitely.
And do you get the same person, or are you moving people in and out?
We would appoint a specific person to be here. If Jeffrey wants specific office hours, we will have mostly the same person here. But we have such a varied our staff has such varied UCC certifications. We may send other people out to do inspections. Everyone does not have the 30 or so inspection certifications. So we would send other staff down to do those do those inspections as needed. But most of our staff have everything that you would need on a daily basis, definitely.
So it could be the same person.
It could be, definitely. Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
It's normally intended to be the same person, but obviously not everybody has a commercial certification. So somebody else would have to come out for the commercial inspections, things like that.
But could you have one main person? Like I'm big on relationships. So like, it's someone that, I understand you may have to bring somebody else in because of a particular issue, but would there be one
Yeah.
person?
We would assign a specific person to be to do your office hours and do the majority of the inspections. Definitely.
Okay.
Al, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Al, what townships have you directly worked with that we would know?
I've done West Scotian Township, East Bradford Township, Easttown Township, East Whiteland Township, and I've also done work in Westchester Borough.
And we currently do UCC inspections for Birmingham Township, East Brandywine Township, West Whiteland, East Goshen Township. Willistown, we do their commercial. Their in-house inspector does not have commercial certifications. We do East Vincent Township, West Vincent Township, and Schuylkill Township. We do virtually 100% of all of their inspections. Some do have one maybe staff member who does a small portion of their inspections, but we typically do most of them for all those municipalities.
Let me rephrase it a different way for Al specifically.
Yes.
Have you ever worked with New Garden Township, Londonderry Township on an engineering side of things?
No, not with them.
Okay.
Not directly.
Although Londonderry is currently an Arrow
Correct.
Engineer, but they work out of with Michael Bingham out of the Lidditz office.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me just open it up to the board for questions. Don, do you have any questions for the engineers?
I guess that's what we worry about. We worry about if you're familiar at all with our little corner of the woods. and how much, how much background you have down in this area as far as your work that you've done, and I don't know.
Yeah, we were the longtime New Garden engineer until about 2 years ago. We did their MS4 work. I am currently involved in still 2 of their projects. We're doing the Bancroft Road Bridge and Egypt Run Road Bridge.
Okay.
We're finishing up Egypt Road, and I'm about to turn over Bancroft as well.
Okay.
How involved were you with New Garden Township's MS4?
Well, wasn't it?
I'm sorry. I was
How involved were you with New Garden Township's MS4?
that heavily involved. Mark Harmon, who is now our executive vice president, started almost 20 years ago working for New Garden to start their MS4 program. And that was right up until recently. So he was involved from essentially the start of the MS4 program in general for New Garden.
So are you involved with them 100% with that now, or is that someone else?
So currently we are not involved with New Garden Township at this point, for a couple of reasons. But I think in terms of, we currently provide Londonderry Township with their MS4 permit compliance. I was just at their supervisors meeting last week. So while we currently don't work for New Garden at this point, I still have a working relationship with their public works director, supporting them with GIS. So again, not to get into specifics here, but we still do occasionally support them for other services. But we're heavily involved with Londonderry Township in Chester County currently.
Donna, any other questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually wait, right?
Stefan? All right.
Can I ask
So
one more?
let me give my question, and I think we're at time here. The one question I have is about grant writing. You touched on it, that you had written some grants. Do you hunt for grants for townships?
We do. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, we have a full-time grants writer.
Yeah.
Plus our business development group. That's what they do on a daily basis. As soon as the H2O and small water grants just came out, maybe about 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, as soon as we received word from the state that the program was refunded at about $300 million, that was an instant email to all staff to start looking for projects for our clients. And we've applied for 11, 12 or 13 grants for clients just for that program in this round alone. And I think they were due today or yesterday.
And how do you interface with that group? How does the township interface with that group?
We will do in-person, depending on the needs and the wants of the township.
Okay.
Typically, we work through management, but we will come to a public meeting and discuss it with the supervisors to see what the elected officials want to see for projects. And then because you will have to approve resolutions to apply for most of these grants. So we will come to a public presentation in front of the boards, and so we get public input as well. So we'll do that.
I guess that's a little bit maybe further down the line, but would we come to you and say, here's the 15 projects that we have going on in the township. Can you please go look for grants that fund these? And then you come to the meeting and say, here's all the money that we can get for you.
Absolutely. Growing Greener, DCNR grants, everything. We will be on the lookout for those. And as soon as we get word from the client that, and we have your roster of projects, most likely, we will start to interface those with various grant programs to see if they fit and how they fit.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That would go through, the initial conversation would be with you, Casey, or?
With Al. Al is your point of contact. I'm here to support Al.
Okay.
But we are just 30 minutes away, 45 minutes away, but still. We're a phone call and an
Jeff,
email.
You have one more question?
Yeah, just one last question. Are there any municipalities or boroughs where you only serve as their MS4 engineer?
Good question.
In any capacity? So MS4 and that's it?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm buffering in my mind right now.
Oh, maybe the way we can rephrase it is maybe we're only interested in MS4 engineering.
So
is that a possibility?
Yes, it's a possibility.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, so for example, there are other municipalities in other counties where we only do GIS. There's no engineering, there's no design, where I'm the point of contact with that municipality. So whether it's GIS or MS4, we can absolutely provide just that support for that service.
And then you'd be the point of contact.
Correct.
And similarly with the UCC, with the inspection services, that can all be set aside as well. Zoning, code enforcement, and UCC can be a separate complete service.
Great.
But it does help to, because, for example, we had one client, they had 2 buildings damaged during Ida last year. We brought our structural engineer in, who's to take a look at the buildings to ensure that the structures were even sound. And then we had our UCC inspectors go in and take a look at it as well. So again, it's our team approach. So that collaborates pretty well across the board.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from the board before we? All right. Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Nice
Thanks for
presentation.
having us in. Appreciate it. Great. Happy.
So the not until, no, this is a board discussion. Yep. So I think the process is to really discuss amongst ourselves what we heard this evening. There is a motion that I can read that will just basically, I'll be nominating someone to be our new consultant. I can change the wording here because there's a number of different options on the table. So let me lay out how I see the options, and then we can talk about the firms. So one is we appoint somebody who does it all. One is we appoint somebody that does one thing and not the other. And they kind of do an a la carte. So appoint a firm that does all of the engineering and MS4 and then zoning. Or then we kind of take pieces from engineers that we like.
Right.
So we've got options here. It's kind of interesting. So I'll just open it up. Whoever wants to start talking, please.
Well, of course, I'll always start because that's my personality, but I'm so happy that Jeff, you asked the question, can we break out MS4? Because he's impressive.
Yeah.
He is very impressive. And I'm in the a la carte mode. I don't know if that costs us more, but I really liked, was that Andrew for MS4?
Yeah.
I thought he was excellent. Not
He came loaded with Purveyor.
right.
He certainly did.
And then from a engineering perspective, I like Pinoni. I like Mark. I mean, I like Nate. I just don't get a good feeling about Arrow. I just think they're too big. I mean, I know the team approach. I'm all, but when I think of Pinoni, I think about, okay, who do I want as the zoning? And I thought Mark had a lot of good feedback in terms of, we're not here to beat the people up with the book. We're trying to move things forward.
I like what he said. It's a rule book, not a roadblock.
Yeah, I thought that was good. But you also have the ability with Arrow to have somebody, but so I'm a Pinoni fan with MS4 coming from Arrow.
Okay. Don?
Well, I definitely like the MS4 guy. He was super good. I have an environmental background, so
Yeah.
it was awesome. I like Pinoni as well.
I'll put your mic on. Just
Oh,
so.
I really like the first guys.
And I'm not saying that's.
They were,
bad.
they just seemed so in touch with
Yeah.
our area and the players.
So I don't know how much that means to you as far as, I would think that would hold some weight. I mean, he seemed to really know the people here and the places here and I don't know whether that is an advantage or whether that's just saying. So I would leave a little bit of that up to Jeff to say whether he thought that would be worth worrying about.
Okay. Stefan?
Oh, well, first, I thought they were all impressive in their
For
right,
sure.
right. So, and thank them for coming to make their presentations. That being said, yeah, sometimes it's a little bit of a feel, and I guess I came away a little bit more feeling, with Pannoni, just because, now I don't know the history of why they were our engineering firm at one point and are not. I thought the presentation was a little bit more concise. And I do like the fact, I like that guy, the Mark can do what we need. And, it seems like the other part with the inspections is not a big deal to outsource that. Not a big deal with regards to rates, but it is something I look at, and the rates were better than the other firms. So it depends. Like, if I agree, Andrew was impressive. The commentary on both firms are very positive. So yes, if we do decide to break it apart and do a la carte, and MS4 for one and the rest, that's fine. If we do one only, my inclination would be Pannoni.
Okay. Jim?
So I thought they all had great presentations too in their own way. Like Pannoni and Arrow had similar presentations when Hanover had more of a hometown kind of presentation, and which is okay too. I mean, but so before I even say any more, Jeff, what is our townships? I'm asking you, you're fully here, right? You deal with it, right? What's our township's engineering requirement? And did any of these firms, like, did they strike a chord with you, like that they would be better than others in engineering for you, for your requirements?
Well, my opinions actually changed slightly since the memo that I wrote to all of you. It's as though Donna was reading my mind. I would like to have Pannoni as the engineer, and the zoning code and building, and Arrow as the MS4. It's one of those things. It's like you said, it feels right. And that's what feels right to me right now.
Okay, so I'm glad. Thank you for saying that. I thought, Pannoni had a great presentation. That their grant program seemed, top notch. But it did concern me a little bit about their code enforcement.
With Mark?
Not Mark, but Mark said he can't do some things, so he has to get somebody else, right?
Building inspectors.
The building inspections, right? So, but they said they could do it, so I think it's fine.
I guess the one question that I keep coming back to kind of expand on that. If it turns out that this is an issue, right? It's not like the wheels fall off. We just need to find an alternative, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we go into it with our eyes open, saying, hey, if there is an issue with these building, trying to find these moving
Right.
parts,
Correct.
we can replace them. We have other options, right?
Correct.
So
And that's one of the nice things about taking it a la carte right now, I feel.
yeah, just to feel out where we're at.
I'm fine with that, and I think what's his name? Nate, right? And his presentation was great. I think they have a larger. I'm not afraid of a large company either. I think they have a larger company, know a lot of people. They can actually replace in place, and we don't miss a beat. It seems like he'd be very attentive to our needs, right?
And I can look at Pannoni as a large company. I look at Arrow as a large company. I think Pannoni's maybe small to medium.
Well, they were 30 in Westchester, but
Yeah.
1,000 or something like that.
1,200
across the
across the
board.
street.
But yeah, I just got
I know
to
what
say
you mean. I see.
that he was in charge of that, like,
Yeah.
not as
Yeah,
opposed to with Arrow. I felt like I'm not still sure who does what. With
Yeah,
that.
and it seemed like Al from Arrow, he does a lot of different townships as well. So I mean, I would be okay with them for anything, but obviously their MS4 GIS program is top notch. So
Okay.
I'm okay with the hybrid approach too.
Okay. So think I'm just going to be boring. I agree with everybody here. So my perspective is very similar. I kind of like the idea of doing this a la carte approach for now, particularly as we kind of get a feel for what these engineering firms can do. And so I think I would be comfortable with having, so I just to point, Don, that's the one thing that I really like about Hanover is that they had that hometown feel, yeah.
I mean, that's just a personal feeling, whether it's worth pursuing it, whether it's to our advantage.
Yeah.
Well, and the only thing we didn't talk about is, the cost, right? Hanover's the most cost effective to us if they did the same job. And then I think Pannoni's the middle and Arrow would be the most expensive.
So
everything.
And so the way I was thinking about that is how do you justify going with, say, Pannoni? And one is you perhaps you get better service, but the other piece that I think is important to me is the hunting for grants, right? So if they can start getting us money
right away,
then all of a sudden their cost of operating goes down, right? Where like our cost of operation goes down. So they can end up saving us money in the long run. So I think that's a pretty powerful argument for them. I mean, I'm sure Arrow can do the same thing, but I think the other thing that impressed me was Pannoni came with everything we were looking for, right? So they knew we had a zoning issue. They came with a zoning officer. They knew we were interested in with grants, so they came to talk about grants. And so I think that also kind of impressed me that, hey, they listened to Jeff. When they were talking to Jeff, they listened to him. And that's important, and that kind of goes back to, I didn't feel like he was a big firm because they're here listening to us. So I think that's a pretty good reason to go with Pannoni for now for our engineering and zoning. And then, I think, again, I didn't really get a clear understanding of how these relationships work, but I think we should go with Arrow on MS4. I mean, that's where having a big organization is helpful because it's a big organization going up against a big organization. And so it's nice to have that behind us.
They seem that, I mean, he said he had relationships with the DP too.
Yeah, I mean, well, and I think that's,
Believe it, but
yeah. Well, I think in the past, we've actually had conversations with the DEP about like, hey, we're going to.
because they're mad at us.
Well, that's probably true. All right, yeah.
They brought us in.
So from what I'm hearing is I think at least the majority of the board is comfortable with moving forward with Pannoni.
And you don't have a strong objection.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I was just saying whether there was.
How do you feel, Dave?
I'm in agreement. I think Pannoni came prepared to talk about what we wanted to hear and what we wanted to talk about. And they seem to be the right size. They have the right folks. So I think this is for now, at least the only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is the zoning, but we can find out if that works or not as we go.
The one thing I want to maybe just throw in there, it's not a big question, but it would be Arrow is fine. Just, they said it, that they're with just doing MS4.
Yes.
Well, we got to make sure, is Pannoni fine with doing everything but MS4? And does that change the rate or the relationship? And second, just vis-a-vis our potentially previous engineering firm, I think it's good to go with something bigger than what we had, because we had problems with issues with personnel issues, and we weren't, they have a deeper bench, in other words.
Right, for sure. And I think both Pannoni and Arrow are both much larger than our current engineering firm.
I believe so.
So
If it brings the board any comfort, I can certainly give Nate a call.
So we make the change at the org meeting officially. Yes.
We can, yes.
So I don't think we do it now, but I don't know when I can read this motion. And
You'll have the motion at the board meeting.
It all depends on how quickly you want to make the change, whether it's immediate or January 3rd.
So why don't we do that at the January 3rd meeting? And the reason I suggest that is so that you can get some of those questions answered, like, hey, this is what we want to do. Pannoni, are you okay giving up the MS4 piece, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
You know, give them and just then because that'll adjust maybe what our decision is. So, but it sounds like by everyone of these firms were pretty flexible. So, all right, so we'll table the motion until the org meeting in January. Is that okay with everybody? All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. So, moving on. So we do not have a motion to approve the minutes.
Yeah, the minutes are-
They're not in it. Okay.
minutes here.
All right. Thank you. And so reports. So first off is our paving program discussion. There's no motion. We'll just get an update from Ron and Jeff on the road work.
Ron, you've been made a co-host, and if you want me to bring up any pictures of particular roads, please say so. I'm happy to do it if it helps you.
Does the board have the tables that I prepared in front of them?
They do indeed, young man.
Okay, so basically, I was proposing with Jeff 3 roads. We went out and after we made our first cut, Dave, Jeff and I rode these roads and some other roads again the second time. So we're looking at Old Schoolhouse, Hess Mill Road, the portion that we didn't complete on the 896 end of Hess Mill Road, and then Ways Run. Old School was on our list to do last year and just what fell below the cutoff line in terms of how much money we had to spend. Plus we needed to do some other grading and drainage work that didn't get done this year in time. Hess Mill was something that we did 2 years ago, but we stopped at what we thought was a convenient joint, planning to come back and finish the road at some future date. So what we're saying now is that 2023 would be the future date to finish that up. Ways Run will be a completion of a drainage problem / paving issue that we had partially solved this year with some drainage work. But to completely satisfy that drainage issue, we need to reprofile a portion of the road. Plus, there are some areas in there that are starting to crack an alligator that we figured it would be best just to do the entire length of the road at the same time. I looked at a rough idea of a budget that we had based on capital funds and liquid fuels. And we had about $448,000 to spend. Everybody's still hearing me? Jeff looks like he's sharing the screen here. And if you add that, 344 and change that I came up with paving the 3 roads that I mentioned that were the ones that we're proposing to do, and doing the work on Old Schoolhouse Road to improve the profile and the embankments, and the drainage work down at the end of Old Schoolhouse Road near 841. We're getting up very close to that $448,000. I think we have about 12,000 to 13,000 left, which would give us a little bit of cushion in case something came up. Like sometimes when you mill the surface, you find that you do need to do some base repair. So some things like that. Again, these are estimated numbers, so I don't know what the cost is going to be on asphalt, for example. So that could go up. So those could change. But right now we can be under that 448 doing the 3 roads that we're proposing to do and doing the profile and embankment work and drainage work on Old Schoolhouse.
So Ron, if I can stop you, will we get any of the, can any of the drainage issues come from the American Rescue Fund, or is that not?
And it's the smaller part. It's that one, I think it's the 3rd table that I provided. It's like $6,500. So it's not a big chunk of this. And I did not even include that number in the 435. I just included the profile and embankment work and the paving work. So not a lot of that could come from that relief fund because that covers drainage work, not paving and grading work.
It's not a problem. We have plenty of stormwater work to do. So I just was wondering. Okay, thank you.
We do have other projects to do, yes. There's some other roads that would follow, I think maybe one more year of milling and paving. And I think we probably could then switch to a much smaller percentage of our budget going toward that kind of a project and more toward some of the oil and chip fog seal kind of sealing maintenance kind of work that we've talked about trying to do in the past. If these numbers come in less than what I estimated, there may be a few roads that we could again try to piggyback with London Britain Township and try to do something there. So I don't, Jeff, you said you maybe bringing up some pictures, but the fix that I'm proposing on Old Schoolhouse Road, we have two sections where it's like driving through a canyon. And the embankment is somewhere between vertical and 1-to-1 side slopes. And we have a 33-foot wide cartway through there, or a right of way through there. So we really can't, even if we got permission from the adjacent property owners, we would be into relocating utility poles, moving driveways, moving buildings. So what I'm proposing to do is to reprofile the road where we would actually raise some of those portions where we have the steepest embankment, raise that road up. What that would do would be to make at the new elevation of the road surface would be wider. So instead of cutting away the bank at the top, we would fill in the bank at the bottom where we've increased the width of the roadway based on the filling. So if you're looking at a trapezoid, you're just bringing that area up. You know, it was 20 feet at the bottom. Now it's going to be 25 or 30 feet wide. And we could make our slope less, tying back into a 20-foot wide cartway and make those side slopes much flatter.
How do you do that? You have to, you're gonna raise the road. So you're
Right,
gonna.
so what we would do would be, and we have this surveyed, so we know what the center line road grade is on these two areas now. We would come back and design what's called a vertical curve where you make a smooth transition from the point where you're tying into the existing cartway on both sides and then attempt to raise it in the middle. So you would essentially come in and essentially take the valley and make the valley less of a valley profile wise, longitudinally wise. And then you would fill in side to side. You would just fill that area in with suitable fill. Now, some of that fill could be the very tops of the embankment. But a lot of that on one side, in some instances, both sides is trees. So there may not be that much suitable soil. So we might have to bring in some structural fill to do this. So essentially you're just building that area up and you'd rebuild the road on top of it.
Like how high are we raising it?
Probably, I'm thinking 5 feet, something like that.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay.
So if you like I say, if you look at that, either one of these, you look at these and you bring that up 5 feet, that cartway that's 20 feet wide, the opening that we've got to work with now is going to grow to 25 to 30 feet wide. So now what you do is still keep your cartway the same width, but just place it in the center of the area that you've created and make your banks grade into that. So now you're filling the banks to make the slope flatter rather than cutting away the top.
Ron, if you're going to go through all that, will that make it more of a raceway for drive-through people? And B, if we're going to go through this process, can we do something to, I don't know, make something in the road where it would not be as much of a raceway, especially if the road is 5 feet higher?
Well, it's still going to be through an embankment. What we're basically eliminating is this canyon effect and this erosion that we're getting now with these steep, very almost vertical to 1-to-1 slope embankments. I don't think you're going to change how people drive on the road much by doing this over what you would do by just resurfacing this road, making it a nice, smooth paved surface. I mean, that's what you always get when you repave a road. You got a nice smooth road that you can drive 70 on now, and it feels like the old road driving 40. So that's where you get that increase in speed. There are some speed humps on this road now. I've had some people leaning toward not putting them back I'm not sure if there was adequate, what kind of data or support that was put in when those were originally put in. Are they warranted?
Yeah, it's a
we would
conversation for
look at
another.
that again, I think.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
So Ron, have you ever done this before? Raise a road up 5 feet?
On where I've done it before is on Kings Row Road, but it was only an embankment on one side. We did a combination of, we brought the road up about 4 feet to get a wider surface so that we would have less problem on the opposite side of the road where we had a steep embankment that we had to worry about people driving off of the edge. So what we did there was just do this, raise the road up. On the one side, it was an engineered wall, and on the other side, it was filled. So we got the wider width of the cartway into that sloping 1-to-1 embankment, and we got, but it's basically you're building a road over again by bringing in. I mean, you build roads all the time, doing cuts and fills. So essentially, we're doing that for these 300-foot, 400-foot sections of road.
So Ron, what you're just looking at your data here, you have a red line running across the spreadsheet. The red line, the 3 roads above the red line are what you think we must do this year or should do this year.
That's what I'm recommending you do.
And then the roads below that are kind of dependent on where the top 3 projects go. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the ones below that were ones that we considered that we thought were kind of next in line. Part of that was based on visual inspections that we performed. Part of that was reviewing the robotics data in terms of how they scored these roads.
Yeah.
Some of it, Sunset Circle is a carryover from last year that we talked about possibly doing the oil and chip and fog seal.
Yeah. So the problem with that road and the reason it's on here is we weren't able to do it last year because we didn't have a firm that would do such a small road.
Well, they would do it, but you probably would pay 2 times
through the nose for it. So
bigger job.
Right. So we would, if we were going to do that and try to do that again this year, we would have to couple it with another project that was much bigger to make it worth their while. Okay.
Right. So the roads that we looked at to do that was Bullock, which is essentially a very narrow, a dead end street with no cul-de-sac at the end of it, no turnaround at the end of it. Very slight use. And then the other one was a road that's right on the township line, where part of the road is ours, part of the road is the neighboring townships. And our road is just starting to show some issues. Their road is in pretty bad shape. So Lennon Britton is a fan of something called FB modified, where you kind of chew up some of the existing material, put it back down, and you come in later and put an oil and chip and fog seal surface on it rather than putting a wearing course. So I was thinking on those that we might want to wait if they're going to do that road, for example, this year or next year, and then come back and fog seal all of it. We could do our road at the same time they would fog seal their portion of it.
Yeah, I mean, one question was what you were asking, Dave, is just the idea that red line. I mean, I don't want it to be a budget line. I mean, forgetting the budget all completely with regards to, just want to make sure with regards to priority with things that we need to do this year, would that red line still be there? Would it be higher? Would it be lower? I just want to make sure again, without thinking about budget at all.
The top 7 projects are pretty much in the order that I would recommend that we do them regardless of budget. So if we could do all of them, but we only had time to do a certain number or for whatever reason we had to limit it, I would do them in the order that I presented them. And the reason we have the red line was that we were trying to do the paving work and the profile and embankment work on Old Schoolhouse and stay under the budget that we had. So that's the only purpose of the red line.
So schoolhouse, it kind of blows the budget is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think we developed this list. It hasn't really changed that much over the year. It's just gotten shorter.
Right.
And so this is sort of the last three, and then Hillcrest, Red Fox. I don't remember looking at Red Fox, a Carriage Run, and Kimbalot. Any other questions?
Well, what was he planning on doing with Kimbalot?
Mill and pave.
The
Yeah.
whole thing?
Yeah, that one also is starting to crack and, needs to be milled and paved. I think it's beyond the point where it can be just oil and chip.
Yeah, I know that.
Ron, do you want to talk briefly about that stream that's close to the road on Old Schoolhouse?
Do we have a photo or something so people
Yes, we
know what we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is this something that there we go.
Do we need to do that before?
We talked about this one a little bit last
Is
year.
this a road program project? Stormwater, okay.
It is a culvert underneath the road, and then a stream kind of flows down toward the road, runs parallel to the road, and is getting closer to the road all the time, to the point where there have been attempts made to armor it right alongside the edge of the cartway.
Yeah.
And if you look back in there, there's obviously other stream channels that have been abandoned by nature, Mother Nature, and it's kind of evolved to a point where it's flowing alongside the road.
Sure.
We had talked about realigning the stream back
No,
like
it's
50 feet.
the schoolhouse.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is the other end.
That requires a lengthy permit process. We couldn't get it surveyed because the surveyor that we were talking to refused to go in there because it was like a big briar patch. So we said we would mow it. Our mowers got stuck this spring. We couldn't get in there to mow it. And so as an alternative, what I'm saying is we'll come in and put a French drain alongside the cartway to keep water from going underneath the edge of the cartway, which is part of the reason why you're seeing that edge cracking up. It's getting saturated underneath that cartway. And then we would armor the road right alongside just beyond that French drain, so that stream doesn't continue to eat its way closer to the edge of the cartway. And we would just do that as road repair, not a stream realignment, and not get a permit.
So because we're not affecting the flow of the stream, we don't need to get a permit. Is that
Maybe a little bit of a gray area, but I think given that we're within 3 feet of the road, I don't think they're gonna have a problem with that.
okay?
And is this cost already in? It comes from some other part of the budget, but this is already, you want to do this before you start paving Old Schoolhouse.
So we would need to bid. I think we could go ahead and bid the paving work and the drainage work and if we decide to go with the profile and embankment work, go ahead and bid all three of those at the same time, but put a faster schedule on the paving work, or excuse me, the grading work and the drainage work, and then the paving work would then follow.
Okay.
But we could get in, that way we can get in line for the paving and get it done maybe in August rather than October, November.
All right, beautiful. All right, thank you, Ron. So anything else we want to talk about while we're on the road program? Yes.
Well, just a comment, I think we know this, that this could all blow up after the winter and you have to look and see what's going on.
That actually it's a good social note actually to say that, our current plan is we're going to run with this, but there's a certain, it's not perfect, but there's a certain amount of leeway that we might be able to, when we work with another, when we work with our paver, I'm not sure if I'm saying this 100% correctly, but there's a certain amount of length that if another road blows up, we might be able to incorporate that into the bid or work something out where we can get that road repaired on it.
Is that inspection done by us? Like in a certain, like already in March or something? When do we do that inspection and decide? March.
So the inspection, it's a visual inspection, right?
Right.
So and usually what'll happen, and this happened 2 years ago with not Old Schoolhouse, but Schoolhouse, over the winter, the road just blew up. It just, the big potholes showed up, and that's where we had decided, historically, we always did the road program after that sort of inspection of the township after the last freeze thaw cycle. But what's been happening is our paving has been getting later and later. And so we want to get our bid in early.
Right.
So we can actually start getting some things scheduled earlier. So
What's nice is too, I'm always driving the roads, so are all of you. So if something goes south, we're gonna know it.
yeah.
All
right.
When we form our bid, we put it, sorry. When we form our bid, we put an option in there for the paver. Is that, or an option in there for us on the paving bid? Is that how we do it?
Do you want to talk about that, Ron?
I think what we would have to do would be to work with the paver at that point and see what they were willing to do with us to make the swap. It's not quite as simple as just, okay, you're taking 100 square yards from here, and moving 100 square yards over to here. And the reason for that is that given this, whatever the circumstances are particular to a Hess Mill, they're going to give us a certain square footage cost for putting down the pavement for that road. Then if you go to Old Schoolhouse Road, they're going to give us a different cost for putting the paving down for that road, because it's a little different in terms of how they have to do it. It's longer. It makes it easier, quicker to do one big long road than it is to do one section of short road. So it's not just as simple as taking, okay, Hillcrest Drive blew out, so we're going to move Schoolhouse's money over to Hillcrest, because Hillcrest is a small cul-de-sac. It costs more money to do a cul-de-sac than it does to do just a straight shot. So we might not be able just to do a one-for-one swap, but I'm sure they will work with us.
Okay, well, thank you, Ron. Anything else on the road program before we move over to the treasurer's report?
Is the board okay with Ron and I moving forward with the paving portion of this?
I think so, yeah. I think
Okay, just want to make sure.
That's okay.
Are you guys all right if we move forward with the?
I'm okay.
Okay. Okay. All right.
And Dave, if it's okay.
Yeah. You gotta-
All right, Stefan.
Dave, okay, I'm going to duck out. My number one Purdue Boilermakers are playing basketball right now.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Ron.
Bye.
Dave, do we get to ask any comments before you get off that topic?
So you can make your comments at the end. We'll be here. We're not making any, there was no motions or anything, but we're going to try and roll through this if you can.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Treasurer's report for November, includes the following disbursements: the general fund with disbursements and transfers of $88,223.90. The park and recreation fund with disbursements of $6,236.55. The open space fund with disbursements of $8,857.19. The capital reserve fund with disbursements of $222,599.28. The emergency services fund with disbursements of $70,976.15. The fire hydrant fund with disbursements of $1,161.60, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $1,913,941.86. I make a motion that the board approve the November 22nd treasurer's report as presented by Melissa Ortega.
I'll second that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Donna. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, ayes have it, 5-0. Motion carries.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, next is, I guess, the final discussion on the 2023 budget. I don't know, Melissa, do you have any comments from last?
No. Yeah,
last-
no changes unless anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns.
So then, if there's no other comments from the board, I'll make a motion that the board adopts the 2023 township budget as prepared by Melissa Ortega. Does anyone?
I'll take a second.
That's Dave. Okay, any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
I guess just introduce Greg. Greg Sachs, would you mind giving us your pro report, please?
Yes. Hello, everyone. All right.
Hey, Greg.
So, see here, the tree planting, just a quick update. Last time I mentioned that we were able to complete the mulching on the triangle area tree planting. So what's left is to mulch the area in the Crossing Park area, near the parking lot and the soccer field. One of our volunteers, Matt Thompson, who does the trail work, has volunteered to help out with that. And that's going to be hopefully completed after the new year. There was a meeting held with PICO representatives to discuss a trail, or adding a loop trail with a middle connector on the property adjacent to Franklin Preserve. This is another project Matt Thompson's would be working on to build the trail. There was no approval yet, so assuming PICO approves, which it seemed like they were kind of leaning towards that, just from my judgment. They asked that there'd be additional reviews, but that's assuming they actually approve the trail addition. Open space conservation flyer. The pro board has been working on putting together a flyer. The goal of this flyer is to provide land conservation information and options to prospective properties on larger properties, pretty much 10+ acres within the township. And again, just to provide information to these homeowners of their options as far as land conservation goes. We're still working on putting that flyer together. Some updates on volunteer efforts. Paul Overton and his daughter worked about 5 hours straightening tree tubes on the Keene property. There's additional about 3 hours left to go on that work. We also had a volunteer who's a neighbor of the park named Noah, who helped clear a fallen tree in Crossing Park. And finally, I just wanted to make everyone aware, in early January, I'll be selling my house. So I'll be traveling for some time. I don't have a set time when I'll be back, but when I do get back, my home base will be relatively close by. So I won't be very accessible during January. Just wanted to let you know that. So that's all I had. Any questions or comments for me?
Yeah, I think we talked about the flyer, that's something that you'll bring to the board and we can look at and talk about, how we want to use it and just have that conversation with the.
Correct. Yeah, we haven't actually finished reviewing it ourselves. So yeah, once we get that stage done, we'll bring it to the board to take a look at and go over.
Greg, are you looking for anybody to finish up the Keene property?
I believe we are. Paul might be able to give a little more info on that because he's been working on those trees. I don't know if he's still on the call.
Yeah, I'm here. I think the 3 hours, we can handle that. It's not a lot of effort, but
Okay.
the Peacedale Preserve needs about 100 hours. So if you're looking for a project, we would need somebody to show you how to do the tubes. They're not to be removed. They're to be propped up, restaked, and the vines pulled out from underneath them. And, I'd be happy to show you, or Greg, if he's back. But it has to be done before mid-March because that's when everything starts blooming again, and then you can't get in there.
Right. Okay. We can talk after. That sounds good.
So is this the FSA?
Well, yeah, I can try to get some of it. I don't know about 100 hours, but we'll get some in there. We'll get a good day in.
Well, and I think we can also, if it's a project of this size, if it's a project of this size, we should be reaching out on Facebook and reaching out. I mean, this is something that we should just be doing in general, is getting people involved. We have website, Facebook, all this. So, okay.
Okay.
All right, well, that's all I have.
Yeah, I might have misspoke. It's probably 200 hours, Greg. What do you think? In Peacedale Preserve, we had about 15 people out there for a day, and we only put a dent in it. So I'm gonna guess 200 hours.
There's a good amount left. I was made aware that they have kind of put together a small group that wants to continue going on. So they were out there maybe a couple more times. But there's plenty of trees. So yeah,
across the street too,
Right. Yeah. So there's plenty of work to be done there.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Anything else we want to talk about with the pro?
So there's no meeting for you guys in January while you're away, or they're having a meeting?
That's correct. I believe they decided to not have the meeting for January since it'll be, right after the holidays. Not too much going on.
Okay, then we're counting on you coming home.
All right. I'll do my best.
But have a great trip.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
So then the episode report.
Yeah. So I don't see Jim German on the call. Okay. So I'll do the FSA report. Membership stays the same. It's 35 members, and we have three openings. We have, I think out of memory, I think we only have 3 members on the waiting list from the township and about 15 others. The early archery season and early shotgun season are closed. They open back up the day after Christmas. And all the parcels are marked. Harvest report, as of 11/14, there were 7 deer taken. As of the service projects, looks like we don't have enough. Oh, here it is. We have 94.5 hours of service to date. The latest one that was done was Chesterville Road and Creek Road cleanup. And the only other reporting is that there's a number of reports of dogs running loose in both, Franklin Preserve and Crossland Preserve.
Mm-hmm.
There was a dog loose in Banffshire during hunting season. A member of the FSA was charged by 2 dogs to take protective position, and as they charged them, called by the owner at the last minute. There's also motorcycles that were being ridden in the bike trails of Franklin and all around Crossland Park. Pennsylvania State Police were called, and we're investigating. The motorcycles were gone by the time the state police got there. And Jim's got us. Somebody saw a small flock of turkeys off of Chesterville Road by White Clay during the road cleanup. The other thing is I actually put signs up at Goodwin, Franklin, and Banffshire for their bigger signs that Jeff had made up for dogs on leashes. But I mean, I guess I'm not sure what we can do. We've talked to Guy about it, but not sure what we can do.
I mean, I think that one is to just kind of start hammering home to people to keep your dog on a leash.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things that, it's just the reality of it is that there are people in the woods. Your dogs you and your dog aren't the only people out there. And we really need to keep those dogs on leashes. Like you said, there are people hunting in that area. There's kids,
Well.
and it's for their protection as well. We also had an incident where someone let their friendly dog off a leash and they jumped on a 7-year-old and knocked the kid to the ground. So, you know, these are not this isn't your backyard. So please put your dog on a leash when you're out there. So, and then, you know, let's use our website. Let's put it on Facebook.
Well, the other thing too, I was coming out of Franklin, crossing one night, and I saw two red lights running in the field. And I just saw 2 red dots. And no, they were dogs with lighted collars.
Just running free.
And they were running free all around my truck. And I talked to the guy, and he said he'd been going there letting his dogs like right at dusk loose for years. I said, well, there's signs up everywhere. You're not supposed to do that. And you're not even supposed to be in here after dark, but it was dark. I mean, and so we'll see. Well, I mean, we just got to keep on it. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. So, Dawn, zoning officers update.
Okay, zoning officers report. This report is compiled by the zoning officer and includes the number of permits processed for the month of November. This report is prepared by the zoning and code enforcement officer. It includes the number of permits processed, the number of inspections performed, and funds received in the month of November 2022. In the month of November 2022, 8 permits were issued, $5,278.64 in building fees, $2,075 in miscellaneous fees, and a 0 in recreation and open space, and 0 in impact fees were collected. 14 inspections were performed.
Thank you, Dawn. And planning and
Will we go next?
yes.
Then you'll pick that up later?
Yeah, I'll pick this up. I'll pick this up after you do this.
Okay. All right. So let me introduce John. You were update. I don't know who's going to take this one. Is it John, Paul, or the guy?
It'd be Mr. Gontars and Mr. Legacy.
I'm sorry. I didn't have my I mean, let me start again. So we're going to be talking about the planning commission report with the historical ordinance update. I know Paul and John have made some changes to the ordinance for clarity purposes. So let me hand it over to whoever's going to take the lead, Paul or John.
We take it, Paul? Paul, want me to take it first and you can take it? All
Yeah,
right.
in terms of talking about the historical commission, this is the ordinance for the historic district, which really governs the process that handles harbor review, and then the Board of Supervisors approval or disapproval on the basis of the harbor review and other information. So this has been sort of worked over for a while now. First with the HARB and the Historical Commission working jointly on it, and its consideration was postponed to allow the Planning Commission primarily to focus on comprehensive plan, but on other issues as well. And so we're resumed looking at this. Broadly speaking, the changes to the ordinance fall into 2 major categories. One is concerned with removing inconsistencies in the language in different parts of the ordinance. This has to do with whether buildings is used or buildings and structures are used primarily. And as I noted in the cover sheet to this, the area where this is perhaps most prominent is where one term is used under building permit, and then another term is used for building permit approval or process. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but those are definitions that are right next to each other in the ordinance. So we want this to be consistent so things are clear. We also have changes to the way the review process proceeds. This is simply designed to unify how work that requires a building permit and work that does not require a building permit is handled, so they're handled the same way. The changes actually reflect how the COA review has been handled since before I was on the commission. But it turns out that a review of the ordinance shows that there are, where building permits are concerned, the ordinance doesn't specify specifically a COA process. So this is just to unify everything under the COA process. And then there are a variety of other minor issues that are handled in this. So this was discussed at the Planning Commission meeting last, and it's being essentially passed on to the supervisors with the intention that they would look at this, decide if they wanted to proceed, the assumption being that they would proceed by forwarding this to the solicitor for the solicitor's review, first off, to make sure that everything seems straightforward, and then second, if it does meet with the solicitor's general approval, to convert everything into a form where it could be enacted as an ordinance.
So I mean, I actually looked at this and I thought, Paul, you laid it out. I'm assuming you wrote this because it was done beautifully, but you laid it out very, very nicely. I didn't see any major changes to content, more in terms of clarification, as you said, unification of processes. John, I'm assuming you guys looked at it from a planning commission perspective and you had no objections. Can you maybe comment?
No, we didn't. We felt it would be wise to send it off to the supervisors. Then the supervisors would have our guy Donatelli look at it to see if there were any issues that he would bring up before, and then it would come back to the planning commission and then move forward for approval. Was kind of the thinking that we had.
Okay, so you want to see it again?
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I guess I thought we would be done. I thought we'd go to Guy and we would be done with it, but you guys want to see it again?
I think if Guy makes significant changes,
then
we
you
may
want
have
to
to see it again.
Okay.
If he doesn't make changes, then probably not.
Okay, got it. That makes sense.
Because he hasn't seen it yet.
All right. So any discussion from the board?
No, other than I think what we're being asked for is we are just going to say, yes, have Guy look this over and okay. And the reason we're having Guy look this over is
This is an ordinance.
okay. We want to just make sure that we have a solicitor's eyeballs on it to make sure we're not making any big mistakes. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I didn't see any major change. It just seemed like.
Well, yeah, that was kind of where I was going, is do we need to actually have this step? But I think it's probably the right thing to do.
At the very least, he needs to do the legalese to put it in.
Yeah, and that's fine with me. So should we just move forward with the motion? Or?
Yes, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I'll read the motion then.
Yeah.
We didn't have any real issues with it. We just weren't sure we were catching everything from the PC perspective.
Yeah.
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 Fair enough.
Can speak to that.
If I could just point out one other thing here. It's important to have Guy look at it, not only from the point of view of, it needs, if it's all acceptable, it needs to be crafted as an ordinance. But the other aspect is that the historic district and the HARD procedure is broadly governed by state laws. So we have to make sure that this is consistent with state laws.
Makes sense. Okay.
All right, so I'll make the motion. So, that's right. I make a motion that the board authorize the township solicitor to review the proposed ordinance as presented and discussed this evening, for him to put it in ordinance form and send it to Chester County Planning for their review. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thanks, Don. Any more discussion? Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. So the motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Paul and John, for your help on this one.
And then I guess I reintroduce Paul for the Barb and HC
John.
report.
Well, I got to talk to you about we had a discussion about sidewalks, walkways and trails as well at the PC meeting. Do you want us to discuss that? Because that took up a good bit of our time. Hello?
Dave. He's asking you a question.
I'm sorry, John, I didn't hear the question. I was distracted here.
In addition, we talked about sidewalks, paths, and walkways. And we were kind of developing, based upon the comprehensive plan, we're looking at what we wanted to do to our ordinances to include some of the thoughts that were in the comprehensive plan.
Mm-hmm.
We had a number of discussions, and discussions included sidewalks, the concrete type. Were they appropriate for Franklin Township, given our low population density? We talked about walkways and trails. And then we wound up having a lengthy discussion about the safety of the pedestrians in the township on our roadways and the like, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And we looked at what we could do to improve that. And we included talks about increasing shoulders, or what other solutions were there. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that after a good bit of discussion, we said really what we ought to do is look at what are the problems that are in the township and identify those and prioritize those, and then look at possible solutions for those problems, and then make proposals and move forward on improving those situations. Included in that discussion was when you go to your mailbox in a lot of locations, you're standing out on the highway and you've got trucks going by you, and it's a dangerous situation. So a number of these things came up, and we thought that would be worth discussion. So we said that the way to probably move this forward was to start a feasibility and a problem or critical location identification study. And what we would do is try to put some bones on the project that would identify where are the problems that we have that affect the safety of our residents, and what are the potential resolutions to those problems, and then move that forward. So we thought we'd present that to the board and ask the board if they were interested in following up with that. And if they are, we would then move forward with a number of initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
And we would initially keep it internal. We wouldn't look for outside sourcing, but we look to keep it internal so we could identify what the issues are. And that would include discussions with the state police, the postal services, discussions with residents, and then come forward with a suggestion of a plan, and then a way of turning that plan into some actions. And so
Oh, I think, John, you just froze on us, but I can.
That was a way to move forward.
Yeah,
and so we're looking for the business input,
So we, and I think, so after that conversation, one of the things that, and I want to preface this is not a plan where we're going to hire some firm to have a master sidewalk or pedestrian plan for the township, right? The concept is really, can we do anything? And if we could, what should we do? What makes sense? And could very well be nothing. And it also could be something, right? And so the first thought, and we, I think John had said it nicely. The first thought was, well, we've got a visual representation of every inch of road in the township with our robotics. Can we work with them to say how to massage that data? And where we're at now is we're not really sure how we're going to go about this. Robotics is one thing. One is, we're not going to hire somebody. It'll be some volunteers. Maybe we drive around with Jeff and look at roads and where people. My first thought is like, Peacedale Road. right? A lot of people ride their bikes down to the park. You know, is there something you can do with that road to make the sight lines better? Whatever it is. We don't know what we don't know. And I think we're going to talk with some folks in January about this subject. I think we're trying to get something on the schedule to kind of think about, you know, how we might do that. Members of the PC, I think Dave is interested in joining, and there's I think another couple of folks I think we're thinking about doing it. But members of the PC, Chuck is going to be a member as well. Actually, I keep saying member, but this is really just a meeting in the township office to discuss, like, if we're going to do something and propose something to the board, what are we going to propose? And so that's going to take place the first week in January, or second week in January.
One of the good things is, Dave, we can work with an organization called LTAP. They're kind of an extension of PennDOT, where we can receive some free technical guidance and support.
Yeah.
So they, I think, could be helpful in that way.
And I think I also want to, you know, I know there's only a few of us left on the call, but you know, we're in a rural township and these roads are small. So it's not like there's going to be this, we're really limited on what we can do. I mean,
limited on the roads. Right?
We're limited on the roads.
There's so many we can do that with, right?
Right. And so that's really what this is about is, all right, well, is there some low hanging fruit where we could actually just paint a line and make a breakdown lane, you know?
But for somebody who walks Peacedale Road with their dog a lot and goes across to get their mail, I would love to be part of that discussion.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of the things about, you know, when these conversations happen, it starts to, you know, there's a lot of opportunities. So anyway.
One of those things could be Walker Road too, between Franklin Trail and Mount
Walker Road is a good example, right? Where if we can do something, that might be a nice place to do it, because we have those two walking trails. We've got Peacedale right there, and people are using that stretch on their, you know, walking and riding their bikes. So that's a good example. That corner on Walker Road, right before you get to Mount Olivet Road, that's a blind corner. Is there something you can do there that makes sense?
Peacedale, people love to walk and bike and walk their dog. And it's a huge, huge issue there on Peacedale.
There may be limits because of the width of the roads, but what about signs? You know, please be. That's
a big part of it. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, nice things.
Yeah.
No, we don't have the answers yet. We're trying to identify where the problems are, and then the possible answers will fall from that.
That's exactly right. That's right.
So, you know, we don't have the answers to give you right now, but we're trying to identify the problems and then work through those problems with potential answers and then move forward with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Thank you for bringing that topic back up as well. So. All right. So I think moving on, we don't need to do the probe report again.
No. Now I guess I introduced Paul about the harb.
Oh, okay. I know.
So this is really more of a quick public update, since all of this is now in the past, but on November 28th, we did have a special meeting of the harb to review a COA with respect to 3327 Appleton, and there were a number of items on that COA application, including the removal of the side porch, the replacement of the porch by steps in the landing, the removal of the back frame portion of the house, which is not part of the historic core, and a couple other items. We recommended the changes as appropriate. It was passed on to the supervisors, and the supervisors, I believe, approved this at their workshop meeting. So this serves mainly as a summary for the public at this supervisors meeting, but all of this is now been handled. So.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right. Well, thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
So I have a quick comment that I need to, I guess we need to withdraw the motion for the treasurer's report. Going through the account balances here in the statement that we received and what is written in the motion are not lined up. And so I need to withdraw that motion. And should I restate it? Is that what we should do? Because I'm assuming this is the right, and there was a typo in the motion sheet. So
I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable because even if you take the numbers and adjust it, it still does not equal 1913 or whatever that final balance is. It's still
yeah,
off.
it's this here.
Just retract them.
All right, so let's just retract. So we'll do that.
And
So
maybe do it next month.
Yeah.
all right, so we'll withdraw the motion to approve the treasurer's report. We'll need to talk to Melissa and find out where the discrepancy is. Is it with this motion sheet or is it in here with the QuickBooks account? So we'll figure that out and table this until the January meeting. Okay. Thank you, Stefan. Appreciate that. All right, so with that bit of accounting done, so our solicitor couldn't make it to the meeting tonight. He had some family issues he needs to deal with right away. So I don't think we'll have much of an update. I don't know if there's anything that you can update us, Jeff, either with MS4 Act 167 or Mount Olivet Road to trail designation.
Just very quickly, I know Guy has been working with PennDOT with our discussions with MS4.
Okay.
There have been some emails going back and forth. My sense from Guy is that PennDOT has accepted a lot of his suggestions.
Okay. So we're just waiting for that. So we're waiting for the final contract. So when we
Yes.
talks about, when we're talking about the MS4 for the residents, we have PennDOT is offering us an option where we can pay into I would call it a co-op. I forget what the official title is. It's not written here, but and essentially what we're doing is we're paying into a co-op to receive MS4 credits. Actually, one of the engineering firms earlier tonight mentioned the same program. And so what our solicitor is doing now is working with PennDOT to ensure that the contract that we sign is in our best interest and reflects the concerns that we have, particularly around long-term maintenance of any work that they do. So.
Yes,
Okay.
and we are so very close to the designation of Mount Olivet Trail from a road.
Okay, good.
So I think it's a matter, my understanding from the county and Guy is a matter of paperwork, a little bit of paperwork and an advertisement in the paper.
Great. That's good news. Okay, so I think that's it for the solicitor report. We'll go in depth at the next meeting in January when Guy's back with us. So next, Jim, do you want to?
Yeah, I can open up.
Mike.
So next is the appointment of the 2022 audit firm for our audit in 23. The Board of Supervisors had a discussion after 3 great presentations by 3 different audit firms at our workshop meeting. One of our elected auditors, Fred Chang, was not able to attend that meeting, but I wanted to see if he had any comments before we make a proposed motion.
Yeah, Jim and the board, good evening. Nothing really to add to the email that I had circulated very recently. I would agree that all the firms that responded are eminently qualified to perform an audit to achieve the desired objective to opine on the fairness of the financial statements of the township. One thing that shouldn't be overlooked is the inclusion of a management letter, which is the auditor's commentary on the nature and propriety and effectiveness of the existing internal control system as exists within the township. I think this is particularly critical when you have a change in accounting procedures and or personnel. It's commonly overlooked when you're reading the audit opinion, and hopefully it'll be a clean opinion without qualification. But oftentimes the management letter that the auditor generally provides is very instructive and helpful in terms of tightening or improving the internal control system as may exist within the township. I'm not clear on whether any or all of the auditors under consideration have agreed to provide a management letter. It's certainly worth inquiring about.
Hey, Fred, is there any reason an auditing firm wouldn't supply one if asked?
There's no reason. They're generally required to provide one if they note a weakness in internal control. However, I don't believe they're required to provide one. I just think it's a good practice to have one. And if I know at least in one of the response to the proposal, they did mention including a management letter. And I can't recall whether all three did or not, but generally it's provided.
Okay, so I think what we would do is then propose a motion, but we'll talk to the auditors about doing that. I don't think there's any reason why whoever we propose would not
do that, right? But I think the point's good that we should ask for one.
Yeah, we'll ask one.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, Fred. So Lynn, you were part of the process as well. I don't know if you have any additional comments since you're also been stuck through this meeting with us.
No, I have no additional comments. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Lynn.
Okay. So then with that, with that and the comments from last meeting, I'd like to make a motion that the board appoint BBD as our new township auditing firm so they can start on their work for the 2022 audit. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Stephen. Any other discussion? No? Everyone, okay? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Thanks for
Okay.
your work to make it
Yes, thank you, Jim. So this is, thank you to the elected auditors for participating. And thank you, Jim, for bringing it all together. You started with a pretty extensive list of people and it was a tremendous amount of work. So thank you for doing this. And congratulations to BBD.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. So now we bring ourselves to closing the meeting with public comment. Public comments can include comments on anything attendees may want to share. Commenters must state their name and whether they are a township resident or a taxpayer of the township. Okay, well, not hearing any public comments, I can adjourn the meeting at 10 p.m. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. All right, thank you, everybody.